Blank check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
They were all drawn to the podcast. The soldiers who brought death. The father and daughter fighting for life. The people who have always feared it. And the one man who knows its secret. Tonight, they will all face the podcast.
So you're just doing the poster.
Look how much fucking tagline there is on this poster.
It's a hefty tagline.
With a tiny little tagline at the bottom.
Right. So that's why I did the double podcast, because I felt like I have to read all three of these. There's like all caps tagline at the top, then a fucking paragraph text block, then a little tagline at the bottom. So I was like, let's work two podcasts.
They're doing anything they can to get people to care about this movie by the time that poster is being designed.
I mean, what also an obtuse bunch of words on that poster.
Yeah, let me look at this again.
They were all drawn to the keep. The soldiers who fought death, the father and daughter fighting for life, the people who have always feared it, and the one man who knew its secret. Tonight they will all face the evil.
I mean, you know.
That kind of makes it sound like a fairly normal monster movie, right?
I mean, it is accurate, like, largely.
Yeah.
You know, it's basically telling you what's the plot. The IMDb quotes page is weirdly stacked.
I know, but I'm not going to read any of those. I mean, what?
I mean, they're not, you're right, they're not, like, good quotes, but they're there.
Right, but considering, like, what was the movie we covered, The Holiday, where it had, like, 0 quotes on the page or something?
The Holiday?
One of the Nancy Myers movies. It wasn't The Holiday, but
No.
one of the Nancy Myers movies, we were befuddled that it truly did not have a quotes page. Oh, it was Home Again.
Home Again, sure, right.
One of the Hallie Shire Myers movies. But the fucking the Keep IMDb quotes page is just essentially a fucking full transcript of the script.
Sure.
Full dialogue. And what truth do you see? What are you discovering about yourself, Camphor, huh? I murder all these people, therefore I must be powerful, and you smash them down only because that raises you. I mean, this goes on for sentences.
Yeah, it's a lot.
A lot.
Michael Mann just sat down and wrote all that.
Yeah, well, he wrote 3 times that.
Yeah, sure.
That's the crazy thing. I was like digging into this. It's like, man, it's so weird. This feels like such a first movie.
Yeah.
This kind of like horror movie that doesn't really like come together, that doesn't have any clarity of vision or purpose in the way The Thief did.
Right.
And it's weird for him to make like a 95-minute movie because that's so unlike him. And then you find out he delivered a 210-minute movie. And they were like, cool, threw half of it out, released it in theaters, and he disowned it.
I never, ever believe things like that when I read them.
Right.
There is no such thing as a 210-minute cut of a movie
that like Hollywood would ever release.
Like, unless there's like an
you think that was like his assembly. You don't think he was presenting that as a formal cut.
I think you see statistics like that.
I made one movie before. Remember, I made Thief? Anyway, you got to release this thing. It's 4 hours long.
You see statistics like that entirely too often.
Sure.
And it's always some staggering number. And unless there's a very clear source on that, where it's like, yes, the script was 300 pages long.
Yeah.
They greenlit that, and then the cut was the right length of time, and they butchered it.
Yeah.
Like Once Upon a Time in America. But when you hear something like that for this, and like you look on Wikipedia, and every citation of it just goes to like the same thing. It's like, how can there be a 210-minute, like, well-edited, well-paced cut of this movie?
Look, I don't think it's well-edited or well-paced. This movie does feel like half of it's missing.
The movie certainly could have been longer than 96 minutes. There's no question.
Right. This feels like...
There's a happy compromise somewhere in there,
I think
right?
I read something that said that his goal was 2 hours.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I just think this movie feels like the pre-restoration Metropolis, where the only way you could watch it was with like inner titles that would come up and be like, so we lost these 20 minutes and here's vaguely what happened for 4 scenes in a row.
It does feel...
Where Metropolis would just explain to you the movie you weren't watching.
Wait, that happened? I've never heard this before.
Fritz Lang's Metropolis.
Yeah, I've seen the movie.
Right. For a long time was just like only existed in short forms. And then Kino Lorber in like the late 90s, early 2000s was like, we're going to try to remaster it, like restore it as best possible.
Sure.
And they had a bunch of inner titles that were like, so here's a whole sequence that we lost. And they just like explain what happens to try to give you the full sense of the narrative.
Weird.
And everyone thought that was the best it was going to be. And then like 10 years ago, someone fucking found it.
Right.
Someone found it in like their dad's attic. And they were like, he has a 16mm print of the full Metropolis. And it exists now.
The other one of those is the DVD of Lost Horizon.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
which has like photographs taken on set with on-screen text explaining what's in the script at that time because scenes were lost.
To the Horizon.
There's a movie that was
No one like that?
it was the sequel.
Lost Horizon is a 210-minute movie. Like, that is actually one of, like, the original.
Yes, that I believe.
Concept. Right.
But that's also at a time where you would buy that.
Of course, right.
There was a Universal tried to make a sequel to All Quiet on the Western Front.
Sure.
In
All
the
Quiet on the
40s.
Eastern Front?
It was, I think, supposed to be called The Unknown.
Alex like that. Okay.
I believe it was called The Unknown,
Little
and
vague.
it was from the German perspective.
Oh, so like a Letters from Iwo Jima deal. Right.
And then World War II happened. And Universal was like, so they like shit canned the movie. And maybe they like re-edited it and retitled it and put it in some weird form, in some butchered form, and released it in
look
theaters.
this up.
But it was one of these things that like people were trying to find forever. Because they were like, there was some finished movie that never got released. And Scorsese was like trying really hard to find it for the Film Foundation. And they ended up finding it when like some guy in like Prague or whatever, like, you know, a projectionist who owned a local movie theater, his daughter was going through his like warehouse after he died. And they found a canister that said unknown on it. And she assumed it was like, this is just some unknown, unidentified footage. And then she took it out and it was like, oh, that's why no one ever found this, because it's called unknown. People just threw it out because they assumed it was like odds and ends.
So I make fun of nerds, but hey, you know,
kind of a cool story.
Kind of a cool story.
Kind of a cool story.
Collectors,
yeah,
they buy this stuff, they hide it away,
right,
and then you continue to have it be in culture.
Well, I suppose for like the first 70 years of film, people didn't like put any effort into preserving things.
Sure.
So it was all like nerds, you know. It was like theater owners and like collectors and these people who just like bought shit in bulk. And anytime they've like discovered something they thought was lost, it's because of that. It's not because the studio found it in their closet.
Right.
Like those studios couldn't burn those things fast enough.
How much time during your Michael Mann series will we be talking about like alternate versions?
I mean, like fucking. I mean, well, here's the answer. In the main release versions of our episodes, not at all. In our remastered definitive cuts of our episodes that we will. 2 weeks after each Michael Mann episode, we are going to re-release the episode with a changed order and expanded scenes.
That's
my joke. It's obtuse.
That would be great.
It's a fine joke.
That would be.
It is a joke.
appropriately courageous.
Right.
And I'm not doing that.
You're not doing it. Of course you're not doing it. But I'm going to say this right now. I'm going to say this right now because we've talked about this.
What about on the Black Hat episodes? Can we all wear black hats?
Yeah, we can all wear black hats.
Thank you.
I want to say this right now.
Mm-hmm.
And fingerless gloves.
Okay.
Because we're hackers.
We're going to hack.
Sure.
Ben thinks Black Hat is hackers.
Right, he thinks it's just like
the Angelina Jolie movie.
Hackers,
and Ben looks like I just told him that his dog died.
Santa doesn't exist. Yeah.
He's despondent.
All
He's
right,
staring off in the middle
what were
distance.
you going to say?
I've said this to you guys in private, but I want to put this on the record. If we ever do Peter Jackson, we are releasing main
you want to
feed
do extended editions
for the Patreon.
I mean, okay.
Regular length.
Is it the same episode just with stuff added throughout?
It would have to be. That would be the format, right?
Yes.
It's like the same episode, but then we go on a few extra tangents.
We'll have tangents. It'll be much like the Lord of the Rings extended editions. None of it's essential.
But then
it all is like a nice added world building flavor.
But then
in the tangents.
Actual episodes are, much like the theatrical cut, something no one really needs anymore.
Well, I mean, that's maybe this is the best business strategy for our Patreon anyone's ever come up with. You feel like a fool with listen to theatrical versions.
There will be no actual Michael Mann remixes. Ben, come on.
I mean, Ben, come on.
There's one for almost every movie, isn't there?
Yeah, and a lot of times for him, it's not just making things longer. It's also like changing the order. So you could just like pick a couple of our little tangents and switch around when they happen.
Ben, you can't be upset about this one. Jackson's not even like on the horizon this year.
No, we're talking about Man though now.
Oh, Jesus.
Doing the Man definitive editions.
I will compromise. I will do it for one episode.
For one. Okay, we can pick one. And for one on the Patreon, we'll release.
Oh my God.
All mixed up and yeah.
Well, I mean, really, you just have to move like something at the end to the beginning. Right. And then
add in one extra tangent.
You have to make the opening song way worse.
Exactly. You have to cut in some backing track that's like a cover of a Phil Collins song by a new metal band, something like that.
We'll do it for which is the one he's fucked with the most?
Miami Vice. He fucks with it all the time.
You think he's fucked with that more than Mohicans?
Well, he released like 3 different cuts of Miami Vice, and like none of the first one was the good one, right?
I'm not aware of there being subsequent ones. I would have guessed. I remember Manhunter had many cuts.
See, I'm less aware of Manhunter's mess because Miami Vice, he released the director's cut, and it was ruinous, especially before the internet, because you couldn't get the regular cut for a while. It was hard.
A lot of people liked that cut.
No, the director's cut sucks. Okay. Anyone who likes it is a thief.
I've never seen it. I've only seen
Alex,
theatrical.
what do you think of the director's cut?
I never saw it because everyone who loved Miami Vice upon release was very excited about it, and then immediately the word was don't watch it.
You turn it on and you're like, oh shit, why'd he do this? Like, you know, it's like, I love that movie. Yeah. And then he doesn't change much, but he changes a song.
Okay.
And he puts in a worse song, like way worse.
Well, like, I mean, you guys will obviously talk about this at length, but you know, like one of the best things about that movie, and kind of that movie is like an in to how to talk about Michael Mann, I think, in the present is like, this long silent shootout at the end.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which has a song in it in the director's cut.
He puts like a cover of In the Air Tonight over that.
Right.
By like Power Man 5000.
Yes, I remember hearing about that.
By like a guy who got fired from Audio Slave or whatever. That was like Michael Mann's vibe in the 2000s.
Wasn't the trailer for Miami Vice scored to the Jay-Z Linkin Park song?
Well, the movie begins with Namankar.
Right. That is in the greatest opening of a movie, I think, of my lifetime.
Correct.
I showed that in the one time I taught at NYU with Griffin's father. I showed that opening scene and I was like, this is the greatest beginning of a movie that's been done in the last 20 years. These 2 minutes are...
I have only seen it the one time when it came out in theaters.
How have you not seen it 100 times?
I don't know.
Pervert.
Well, look, we'll never talk about it on the show. Winky, winky. My new bit now is I say we're never going to talk about movies that we've already announced we're going to talk about.
That's a great bit.
Right? I'm just going to call out the bit right now. I'm going to dissect the frog. I'm done hinting about things that people have surmised we're going to do. I'm now hinting about things that they know we're going to do.
So he messed with Manhunter
and we confirm.
I feel like Manhunter has 2 or 3 cuts.
Because I feel like with Heat, he would just like add little, you know, he would beef it out slightly, right? Like every new version of Heat.
The newest version of it, he's like changed some shit. He's like used some alternate takes and changed some ordering. There's the definitive edition that just came out like a year or 2 ago.
But crucially, and I think this is like relevant, like the keep is untouched.
Right.
And according to what I looked up.
He just threw up his hands.
There's just no way to do it, but
It's weird that it feels like the one he would most want to come out with his own version. I wonder if he just doesn't have access.
You would need millions of dollars, I think. You'd need to like do whole visual effects
and
sequences.
According to what I was reading, he seems to have said like it's just not possible. There's not the material. But talking about him, and you're obviously, I'm excited to be here at the beginning.
You're here at the beginning.
Well, of course.
What I view as a very important miniseries.
Because this is Blank Check. Podcast about filmographies. Directors of massive success on their career give a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. Sometimes those checks clear, and sometimes they keep. Baby.
Sometimes they get out.
Get out.
I don't know. Prosky. Sometimes they drink a dog's blood for no reason in the middle of the movie.
Prosky. I was like, where's Protsky going to show up in this movie? He's in the opening credits. And I didn't realize he was the guy with the big bushy black beard.
With the big beard.
Yeah. It was like almost unrecognizable.
He's got a big beard.
He's got a big beard. And he's also such a white-haired man.
That's true.
I was not used to seeing him with that much color in his face.
That's true.
It's a miniseries on the films of Michael Mann.
We talked about Prosky for like 45 million
minutes. It was mostly a Prosky cast.
I mean, there's such a company of actors in his movies.
Yes.
Especially like the first decade.
Mm-hmm. Miniseries is called Cast of the Podhekins.
Right.
Subtitle, Michael Mansplaining.
Right.
And our guest today is Alex Ross Perry.
That's right. And
director of Her Smell.
That's right.
Still in theaters? Fingers crossed.
When's this coming out?
May 19th. Let's say
That's
a month out, right? A month later, right?
It might be digitally nearing by then.
Well, your window, you got a 30-day window on
digitally crowning?
The sort of new in-between of neither day and date nor 90 days.
So that's allowed? You can do I don't know.
Do anything. No one cares anymore about how movies are released.
Well, doesn't AMC and Regal care? Isn't that the whole fucking problem?
Yeah,
right,
but we won't.
I know you're not. Right, you're not doing that.
But like, right, you know, it's always been this thing of like, well, the indie distributors can do whatever they want if they're avoiding the multiplexes because they're not fighting with like AMC and Regal to preserve a window. I had a pop-up ad yesterday.
Okay.
For Isn't It Romantic?
Sure.
The Rebel Wilson rom-com. Available on digital. And that movie came out Valentine's Day.
True.
And at the time we were recording this episode, it is March 28th, 27th?
Sure, it's the end of March. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And they were like, available March 30th. And I was like, that's
so
6
that's 45
weeks.
days. That's a 45
That's
day
45
window.
days. And they're like, it's coming out on Blu-ray mid-April.
Maybe New Line has some, I don't fucking know.
I don't know. It just feels like no one's protesting that.
You know what was the only thing about this that
That's
was,
my point.
That was,
They always have these big like fights in advance of the subject being brought up.
Did you read
and then New Line just does it and no one gives a shit.
no one cares at all. Did you read the thing that Soderbergh kept saying recently where he said that there has to be a system in place to, by the end of a disastrous opening weekend, just press a button and have the movie be...
Yes.
He
said that to me. In my interview, he said it to a few
Okay.
people.
Okay.
I heard him say it on a podcast.
Okay.
No, you're right. He said it on Simmons' podcast.
Retired bit. Retired bit.
But
It's my new bit,
that's
by
the
the way.
smartest thing anyone said
Right.
about
I'm
releasing
saying retired
movies.
bit when I want to say the retired bit.
where it was that thing where like he was basically like, I know on Friday if it worked or not.
And if
it didn't work,
Yeah.
I should be able to just put it on
we
Netflix
don't have to wait
the
90
next
days
week.
to sell
Yeah.
people a movie that bombed.
Right. Because
Man's
it's
a
like,
prophet.
he's basically
Yeah.
almost saying like, it's almost rude to theaters to say like, you have to still play Unsane. You know what I mean? Like, it's sort of like, I get it. They didn't like it. Forget it.
But the other thing is, like, sometimes something does surprisingly well in theaters. You don't want to, like, completely bypass the process because there are certainly movies that people don't expect to last more than a week that end up having, like, robust, sort of indie
What are you thinking
runs.
Black Maudie? Black Hat?
No, you know what's one I remember? Arbitrage, a movie that I...
Arbitrage. maybe?
Arbitrage
Yeah.
is one of those only movies that was a day and date release and,
and then it
made
made
money.
10 million, like, or whatever.
There was like
It made like 7 or 8.
There was like
yeah.
a 6-month window.
Yeah.
Well, because
8
like,
years ago where a day and date movie like that or Margin Call.
But
which-
Margin Call was the other
Margin
one.
Call,
I believe.
yeah.
Right.
But
I mean,
no
those
one's
are
disproven
movies
those
that-
are not
yeah.
the same movie. And
Margin
they both,
Call's a lot better.
those are both day and date movies that like made millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Arbitrage made 35 worldwide.
Right.
Not
it made
bad.
10 domestic? How much?
7. 8.
Okay.
8.
Okay.
I mean, 7.
But that's like
Margin Call. took a
7.9
whole
higher
5.
than any other.
No,
day
of
and date
course.
People
movie.
I mean,
assume that would make
I
like
think it's
300,000.
often better if
Yeah.
Richard Gere is in your movie and it's about like the Upper East Side. That means the median age of your audience is like 78 years old, right?
Yeah.
They don't know what a video on demand is.
That movie,
So they're going to go to see it at Lincoln Plaza.
that movie also has like a lot of like famous New York people who aren't actors playing other characters.
What, like
in
Ed
it.
Koch or
I
something?
believe
Like-
Graydon Carter's in
Graydon
that movie.
Carter's in it. And there's like 1 or 2 other people like that where like every once in a while I end up on like a Wikipedia page of like a real financial criminal. And it's like, of course he played a key supporting role in the Richard Gere film Arbitrage.
Well, also, if your movie is named after like a securities process,
Yeah.
like some kind of high-end financial thing, that's a tip,
That's
right?
a little tip of the hat.
You're really giving people what they want with this
Yeah.
miniseries on the films of Nicholas Jarecki.
You're right. Graydon Carter is like 9th build.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like Dickie Gear, Susan Sarandon, Graydon Carter.
Nicholas Jarecki is a good pull.
Yeah.
He's making a movie right now, apparently called Dreamland.
He's not the one who did the Jinx. That's Andy Jarecki,
Yeah, that's the
the Moviefone guy.
He's the Moviefone guy.
He's the voice of Moviefone.
Andrew Jarecki created Moviefone.
I did not know that.
So
I thought that I think of him as what's it called? The Friedmans,
Yeah,
Capturing the
Capturing the
Friedmans.
Friedmans.
Right? Yeah.
Right. So the Jarecki family, like old finance money
Henry
family,
Jarecki, right? Like
and
big,
all
big
the
rich
kids
man.
wanted to be filmmakers, and the dad was like, "You're never going to be an artist. You have to make money." So he was like, "Okay, I'll become a businessman." He created Moviefone. He sold it for millions of dollars, and he was like, "Great, now I'm going to go make my fucking movies. Fuck you, Dad."
Fair enough. He also co-wrote the theme song to Felicity.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Jack of all trades.
Really?
Yeah, but he created Moviefone, then directed Capturing the Friedmans, and then
Remember the Jinx?
Ben looks
Yeah,
antsy.
Jinx.
Ben looks.
remember Bobby the Jinx?
I forgot to
He
set
forgot
the
to
clock.
set the clock.
I forgot to set.
That's
the
okay
clock.
because I'm going to say I believe we're going to go long.
I think we might go.
I'm setting it.
I would like to have 2 episodes in the all-time top 10 longest.
See, this is
Do
the
not come in to the studio with that.
this
I'm
is
sorry,
the
I
problem.
have to, and I have a couple things to talk about. Even I'd like to address before the key.
Alex has a full notebook.
You wanna do a
Here's
state
the
of
other
the
thing I
podcast?
want to say to you, Alex. You could do a March Madness. We have to do our final March Madness recap.
Oh, interesting.
And you can stay on for that.
If
We
you
got to
think
talk Final Four.
If you think I came into Blank Check with an out time, you're crazy.
Anyone who does, I always am like, oh, sweetie, oh, shit,
No,
okay.
my day.
Like, I'm sorry.
My day is cleared. Well, the last time I had an out time, it was 4.5 hours later, and I still ended up barely making it because Griffin was 2 hours
I
late.
was surprised.
right.
That was
Griffin-
one of my
But no, if I'm coming in
one of
here,
my weaker moments.
if I'm
as a
coming in here at
podcaster.
1, my next commitment is in the evening. But I have a couple things to address. One is I love Michael Mann, and I'm very excited.
You're
this
glad
is
we're
being
doing
covered.
him, right?
I feel like the term
Mansplaining.
should be the North American Man Blanky Love Association. for anybody who wants to listen to this and declare themselves members of NAMBLA.
Of MAMBLA.
The Man Blanky Love Association, which you're all members of.
I am.
He's a very important filmmaker to me, and I have
We're
a lot
going
of
to
thoughts
take
on
back
that.
NAMBLA. What if we take it back? What if we
Well, you successfully taken back the cause.
We've taken back the cause, because, of
I was
course, the
saying
cause
that to
is
people.
Kevin Costner now.
He was in some movie at South by Southwest, and
You
I
call him
kept
the
saying
cause.
the cause, and no
Yeah.
one, it's weird, no one had picked up on your thing yet, but...
It's starting to gain traction. It's definitely going to work.
And this will too.
Yeah.
So the Man Blanky Love Association, I'd like to see an image of, you both as children holding Michael Mann's hands.
Sure.
And the other thing I want to just address, this is vaguely off topic, but I had a good
that
merchandise
will definitely
idea.
get made. Okay,
Has
great.
Ben looking up what NAMBLA is?
No, I'm laughing at you. I'm doing
good.
doing some clock business.
I said one quick
business.
sort of tangential thing. I know we want to get back to the Jareckis.
And you found
we
a
gotta
really
get
good
right. We gotta
merchandise
wrap it up
spotlight,
on
but
the
we'll
direct.
save that for later.
I did
in the
find a good
episode.
merchandise spotlight,
Yeah.
but I want to create a potential
Surprisingly.
merchandise
Okay.
spotlight.
Yeah.
Why is there not merchandise yet that's just the entirety of the movie's speech?
The movies.
Like,
why have we not?
I would have a mug, and I think many people would have a shirt that's just that whole speech.
So it's just text, no image.
Nothing, no image.
All right, now I have to.
I would like to interject. I am beginning to take screen printing classes, and I had a thought that we could start offering exclusive limited run T-shirts.
If we do like live events,
like there's going to be like 100 of these.
This is going to
Get 'em
sell
while you
out.
can.
100.
No.
I'll make 20.
No. This I think is going to be the big seller. I feel like the movie has become iconic.
It has become
And
iconic.
my wife has like a.
It has.
She
It
has like
has.
a-
Admit it.
It has. I mean, the question is, are we? Does anyone own the rights to that speech?
You do. You
Are we
found
going to
it.
make that shirt, and then is Bruce Valanche going to sue us and be like, "I wrote the movie speech"?
No, not if that did. That'd be
I'm
cool.
trying to find it.
Anna has a tote that's like a Sex in the City's like a Carrie monologue that I see
movies.
women around sometimes. Just a tote or a mug that's just that whole speech.
I guess if we spell it phonetically, if we do da M-O-V-I,
right, then it's sort of harder to.
I just
to
think
Google.
that to me is a beautiful piece of merchandise.
The other thing is that this speech
by the
is
time this episode comes out, we're going to be fucking
like
selling
if
it.
I went to Sean Connery and asked him about it, he would not know he had done that.
No,
Like,
of course
no
not.
one remembers that.
No, of course.
Like, and if I look for like Sean Connery Oscars opening, they're like, here he is winning an Oscar. That's what you want,
You
right?
deserve
Like,
full credit for that. You made it
movies.
happen.
I mean, that has changed my life and the way it's changed the way I say the phrase "the movies" forever.
We all.
So I just want to
Love
mention and hope
the
that there's a
movies.
groundswell of support. This is a beautiful piece of text-based merchandise.
I
waiting to
promise
happen.
it will be on sale by the time this episode
Opening
comes out. I
of.
promise.
Do you remember which Oscars it is?
It was the one with Cold Mountain because they keep cutting.
2003.
Yeah.
Okay, so that'd be the
2004
2004
ceremony. Yeah.
Oscars.
It got posted in the Reddit. I mean, that's the other thing now.
I know. It's
And
just
I
the
have
Reddit
that-
can be hard to
I have
search.
the because you texted it to me and
Yeah.
I have it
Yes,
on my
yes.
phone because I send it to people once or twice a week. I've sent it to many people. I've shared it with Scottish people.
Yeah.
Sure. Of course.
It's very important. I watch it like once every 2 or 3 weeks.
Now I want to go back a point on
I
your
watched it too.
bullet list. Okay. I think the Blankies have started doing something very dangerous, which is keeping a constantly updated ranking of the longest episodes.
Oh, sure.
Which then
right, because
becomes
that
a
makes
challenge
it a challenge,
for
right?
your Alex Ross Perrys, your JD Amatos of the world to come on and try to break the record.
I just couldn't believe at Toronto when you were like, the episode's coming out now. It's, by the way, our second longest episode.
Right, because they had alerted me to that.
And
That
I
it was that
was like,
Taking Woodstock was 2.5 hours long.
And I was like, that's interesting. And I feel like maybe there's been some long ones since then, but that blew my mind, even though I was there for it.
It's a good memory. I remember also Griffin trying to get Rachel to
Yes, that's the thing.
record an episode
Yes.
where she just heard
Oh, right. Yeah, she's outside.
our taking
We were going to do an episode
Also,
that
like
was Rachel at her desk.
30 minutes of that episode are Griffin's Scorsese story.
Yeah, you
Good
tell the
story.
Scorsese story.
Pays out like a slot machine.
It pays out like a slot machine. But that's the thing. We're done with the movie, and then
Yeah.
somehow, if you look at the podcast, there's an hour to go, and you're like, what are they?
Well,
keep
that's going to
talking
happen
about?
again today.
That's what I'm saying.
Well,
now,
this movie's going to be done in 20 minutes.
But there's
Now
so
our
much, I feel
friends
like there's so
know.
much to say about Michael
There is.
Mann.
Yes.
Especially coming in early. I don't know how the Thief episode went. Probably well.
I'm going to say this.
The Thief episode, I feel like, was a banger.
I think it was.
Do you agree?
I think it slapped.
I think it was pretty
I
great.
think it slapped.
This episode might end with like Mulasar coming to just explode our heads or whatever.
Okay, Ben wants to say this.
I'm fine with you going for longer run of episodes. I'm fine with that, but I already, as the editor of the show, have made a mental note for Michael Mann that I am going to start really really cutting some stuff.
You're going to start cutting some stuff.
You're going to cut. Wait a second.
You're going to start cutting some stuff?
I'm going to start really giving like some heavy cuts.
No.
You can only do that if you commit to also doing the later definitive edits where you put stuff back in. That's the only way I'll allow that.
No cutting. Not after I had to put up with 5 months of Tim Burton without cuts, where every episode's fucking 2.5 hours long. We went how
Can't
long?
Cut scissor hands, baby.
Right.
Can't cut them.
150. We went.
What are you gonna cut them with? Bigger scissors?
On fucking Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah.
I was wondering, will there be just an ordinary blank check that is over 3 hours long?
It's got to happen.
Just like
not like a special episode,
like
but
you're
just us chatting.
like you're doing Miami Vice, and it's just incidentally 3 hours and 5 minutes long.
It's one of those
like,
things.
Well, is that the limit that will happen? Where it's like, will there ever be this?
Well, you know how like
we would
every
have to have
time
someone like you who has no objection,
who wants it to be 3 hours
exactly.
long.
Yeah.
You know how every time like
could push us.
JD will push us there. You know how every time like someone breaks the human speed record, then suddenly 5 people break what was previously an unbreakable record.
Right.
It is the thing where I feel like the bar is constantly getting pushed. I mean, we were talking to a friend of the show, past and future guest Sam Rogal, and noted that when his episode come out, Terminator 2 was 2 hours and 12 minutes, and we were embarrassed.
Right, we eclipsed the running time of the actual movie,
right, and we're like, how is that
Jesus.
possible? How could an episode be this long?
Right, and now like we can't like order a cup of coffee without it going that long.
Ugh.
Oh, what's up?
Oh, David.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. This is unprofessional. I know. I'm not feeling good.
Why aren't you feeling good?
Smart. I just got this pain in my ass. I got like a major pain in my ass.
A pain in the A star?
Yeah, from having to buy clothes online.
It is very hard to just get basic clothing online.
I tried doing it last night and it hurt my butt so much. And I'm still seething in pain just having to sit and do a podcast.
So you're saying that like you went online, you were surrounded by a mind-numbing assortment of underwear and socks.
And I questioned how something so essential could be such a pain in the ass to buy. Wait a second. Always questioned how something so essential could be such a pain in the ass to buy. That exact series of words is here on this ad copy.
Sure.
Wait a second.
It's A star.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Who is our sponsor?
The old OGs.
Mac Weldon.
Wow, he really sold that.
The frustration was real, and our eureka moment.
You guys didn't see his face.
Happened in a department store aisle full of brands that dominated our top drawer. I'm a real actor.
Yeah, no, that was good.
Thank you.
His face was like transformed.
It was really
as he read the copy.
I felt it. I'm. You have to really.
I'm just a stool pigeon. Like I'm a grocery boy.
It's just good line readings, but I'm really feeling. I've had to really work on this pain in my ass. What it would feel like to have the struggle of trying to buy clothes online from any other company.
Can I give you a shock twist?
Please.
I'm wearing Mac Weldon right now.
Whoa.
Wearing Mac Weldon.
Okay, here's a fact.
And it's better than whatever you're wearing right now. Unless you're also wearing Mac Weldon.
No, I'm wearing some stupid underwear. I'm wearing underwear for dumb losers right now. And here's the fact. When Mac Weldon first sponsored our show.
That's true.
They gave us a little bit
back in the Bigelow days.
A little bit of credit,
sure,
right?
Right.
And I got some underwear.
Bought some MW.
Got a pullover, right? Like a sort of sweatshirt. And any day when I'm like, ooh.
It's a fun day, right? You're like, oh, nice boy.
But I only have like 3 or 4 in the rotation.
Right.
But now that Mac Weldon has come back into the fold with us, they gave us a new little bunch of credit. And I am so excited to have more Mac Weldon in the rotation because I will say, I feel a marked difference in my attitude for the day. Truly.
I agree with you.
The absence of a pain in my ass.
I think it's A star. Yeah. I think it is a great way to start your day.
It's a great way to start your day.
Mac Weldon believes in smart design, premium fabrics, and simple shopping. It's very easy. The website breaks everything down really simply for you. Everything has like 3 styles, a few color options. You know what I mean? Like it's just not overwhelming at all.
And you understand the different sort of
tiers, premium tiers. Yes.
The different qualities of each one. But then you pick your size, you pick your color. This is what they did. They start from scratch. Okay? They engineered their own fabric. They made sure the design process was meticulous so that we,
points to self,
the buyer, can count on the fit being the same each time.
Yeah, this fit's very good.
They did all the hard work.
I like their shirts a lot too, but they really specialize in like underwear and socks and all those kinds of basics, undershirts, hoodies.
One could almost say the difference is in the details. So they obsess over every stitch and seam until they reach their definition of perfect. One could say that. Wait a second. That exact line is in
They have
copy.
the silver underwear and shirts that are naturally antimicrobial.
And they make me feel fancy. I mean, not only do I smell good, but I'm like,
I got
silver,
some silver shirts. I really like them. Yes.
You feel like a silver fox when you're wearing them.
So I've been in those silver polo shirts for a while. Been bringing those.
Is this one?
To work. This is not.
Okay.
This is not. I'm wearing.
I was going to say you look
wearing
bad.
it under the jeans. That's where the
You don't look like a Mack Weldon man right now.
Not today. But under the jeans, I am.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Listen up. For 20% off your first order.
Okay, I'm listening.
You go to MackWeldon.com. You enter the promo code CHECK at checkout, and that's all you have to do.
Okay, so
20% off. MackWeldon.com. 20% off your first order. That should be clear. Go to MackWeldon.com. You enter the promo code CHECK at checkout.
Okay, so I have to book a flight to the Czech Republic, and then I have to then log on to a computer.
Respect, but no. You just enter the promo code CHECK at checkout for 20% off.
Oh, that's much cheaper.
Mack Weldon!
Yay! Welcome home, Mac.
Yeah, we love him.
I am excited about the keep. Mm-hmm. I'm excited about Michael Mann.
Sure.
But I feel like
he's one of your favorites.
I love Michael Mann.
Yeah.
He's very important. But part of this, and you were talking about Miami Vice, and I feel like this will come up again and again, but like, there was a time where it was inconceivable to present the notion that Michael Mann was a serious filmmaker,
right?
Even though he was coming off of like back-to-back prestige Oscar movies.
Back-to-backs, you mean
The Insider and Ali. And I feel like I wrote down, like, up until that time, if you were to say, like, Michael Mann is one of my favorite and one of the best filmmakers,
right?
That would be like saying, like, Ridley Scott is one of, Ridley Scott without Alien or Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
that body of work, it's like
Black Rain Ridley Scott.
Yeah, it's like, okay, like, him, really? Like, the guy who made Gladiator, the guy who made The Insider, like, that's your favorite filmmaker?
I remember when Ali was coming out, and my father is a massive boxing fan, my brother's a massive boxing fan. My father wanted to be an on-camera sportscaster.
We've talked about it.
And the reason he gave up the dream was he got his shot, which was he hosted a documentary about Muhammad Ali coming out of retirement.
Okay.
And he was so bad in it.
Right,
he was like,
I'm just picturing him sitting there like Costanza on the floor where Jerry's like, then again, those jobs tend to go to former ball players and people with broadcasting experience.
I'm going to show you the picture of my father interviewing Muhammad Ali.
Like, up until that point, like, he was just like, he was just a Hollywood director.
Oh, this is the point I was going to make. When Ali came out and I was like, do you think it's going to be good? And he went like, well, Michael Mann is one of the best filmmakers alive. And my dad is not a serious cinephile. And I was like, how is it possible that this guy is one of the best filmmakers alive if I haven't heard anyone else say that? You know, like as a 12-year-old, I was like, I know the people who are constantly referred, like Scorsese is shorthand. Coppola is shorthand. Spielberg is shorthand. You're telling me he's one of the best filmmakers alive? I've not heard anyone else throw down that kind of consensus.
Wow. So Peter Newman was really ahead of that.
He was like big into
him.
At
that time, it's like Mohicans, and then like it's like big, sweeping, prestige-y movies. And I really feel like, as we just discussed, like it really turns around with Miami Vice, which was like a very...
But that's funny, right?
Oh, wow, look at that. There's your dad. Really does look like Albert Brooks in a way.
He looks very Albert Brooks
with Muhammad Ali.
This is the photo, but it's also, I'll post it on the fucking feed or whatever. This is also
really does look like Brooks.
This is his avatar on Instagram too. It's like his favorite picture.
Right.
Muhammad Ali with a mustache when he came back out of retirement and sucked.
Is this framed hanging up at your home?
Oh, 100%. Are you kidding me?
Is it
Why
signed?
are they outside on a rock?
The thing is bad.
Okay.
It's bad.
It seems like a combination of, you know, your dad's big moment, but also like one of the movies they make in Boogie Nights.
Yes, it's
where
it's
just like shots of Muhammad Ali like sniffing flowers and staring off into the
It's very low rent.
It's like
and they
Barney's movie in The Simpsons,
right?
Like, that kind, right? Like
they thought it was a get, and then they like started following him around.
Peter was a get.
They thought both. And then they started following around my father, interviewing Muhammad Ali after like training to come out of retirement. And they were like, oh, A, this guy can't conduct an interview. Right. B, Muhammad Ali is going to lose these fights.
The stories about your dad are starting to pile up into such like a character on a sitcom who you never see sort of way.
Yes.
I want to get him on though.
Like, well,
everything
if Demi wins.
Everything about him that stacks up is like, these stories can't all be true.
You don't even know half of them.
Well, you said that one the other day that was revolting about the. Which revealing to me as someone who hates feet. No, that's hilarious.
My father, who is a college professor.
Oh, you guys, this is an off mic revelation.
Yeah.
Okay.
My father is a college professor, hates socks. He wears like loafers.
Which is crazy to me. I love socks.
Socks are great.
They're my favorite piece of clothing.
I have so many pairs of socks. It's crazy.
He wears like loafers and like jeans that are a little too short on him. Mm-hmm. So his ankles are almost always exposed, even during the winter.
Right.
Like even during snowstorms.
That's insane.
And he hates wearing shoes so much that he essentially just steps on top of his loafers. So like the back heel is just like totally bent. His like heel is totally exposed to the elements. And when he goes into class in front of his students, he like gets behind the desk and then he like takes off his shoes. And he thinks that no one can notice. And every time I met one of my father's students, they're like, "Oh my God, your dad's the barefoot professor."
This is crazy to me. But anyway, this
and it's people are like disgusting because like
get him those shoes that have the toes built in.
You don't think we've been trying to solve this problem, Ben? You don't think we've been working at this one?
Hey, let me consult
as a
with,
family,
Peter.
Please.
And yet, your dad seemed to be hip to man before anybody.
It was hip to man, and he's not a big movie guy.
My point is like, prior to Miami Vice, like that was maybe your dad's opinion.
Yeah,
and I think after that movie, it like really exploded with people who were just like,
I think you're right.
Oh my God. And then it really doubled down with Nolan being like, The Dark Knight, that's inspired by Heat, the greatest of movies. And people were like, Heat, the movie that's on cable all the time?
That's the other thing.
That's
I think
the greatest movie?
That's the thing.
But Heat had a bit of a Shawshank thing where it was like watching it 20 times.
But with dads, exclusively.
But now,
with that sort of like, middle-aged dad zone.
But now Heat is a movie that like, the last time it screened in New York, like it was at BAM.
Right.
It was like because it's long, it was like a 1, a 3, and a 9.
Yeah.
Right.
And I went at like 2 to get a ticket to the 3 o'clock, and every screening for the day was sold out.
Wow.
Totally.
And now
it's all like 25-year-old kids.
And people are like, oh, this is one of the greatest made films ever.
Yeah.
And then suddenly Man is like, oh, he's one of those. He's shorthand now.
Well, like, Man is Dark Knight did do a lot for it. I think you're right about that.
I mean, he's got Fichtner in the
and then
opening
suddenly you
scene
just look
and all
at,
that.
you look back at his movies and you're like, oh, right, these are all perfect. These are like a perfectly made body of work.
None more so than The Keep. The other thing with him, though, is I think Miami Vice was so divisive that the people who were man stands,
Miami Vice, like it was, you had to take a side fast because it flopped so hard, and not only that, like it was sort of
like $70 million.
No, I don't think it even made that. It was very expensive.
Right, it made like 50 or 60, and it went way over.
But it's not one of those things that like
63.
It's not one of those things that like made 15.
No, it didn't make 15.
No, but it was like
they were like it cost $150 million.
It was a bit of a baffling movie.
Over.
I think people were also like, why isn't that movie what I thought it was going to be, which is like a fun
Starsky
guys in pastel suits?
Why is it shot on home video cameras?
Right. What's with this digital? Colin, it was the moment where everyone was like, we've been bamboozled on Colin Farrell, and you've been trying to tell me he's a movie star,
everyone
and I refuse.
And Jamie
Colin
Foxx's
Farrell's
ego
like,
was
I was
starting
so
to get
stoned.
Right.
Like,
he was like, I don't remember making that movie. I
remember
rapped and then went into rehab.
Right, whereas Jamie Foxx like left during production because like Dominican gangsters fired gunshots at the set. Right, like
but Jamie
it
Foxx
became
was
such a
also
legendary thing.
He was high on his shit. I just think post that movie, especially because it was released as like a summer action movie, and then like mainstream audiences rejected it. The Man fans had to be like, you know what? I'm not keeping this to myself anymore. This guy's a genius. Like Man fans started getting really loud because they were like, we have to fight for this.
Well, because like it was, like, oh, he made that early kind of like cheesy pre-Silence of the Lambs Hannibal Lecter movie.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, that's the Mohicans. That's the same guy. Weird. And then it's like big prestige Oscar movies that do really well.
Right.
And in retrospect are both phenomenal.
Yeah,
of course. The Insider and Ali.
And The Insider I hadn't seen in years, and we rewatched it when Black Hat came out. We did a little Man series.
I have never seen that.
Never seen The Insider?
I'm very excited to watch it.
Wait, which is that the only one you've never seen?
Never seen Mohicans either.
Wow, you're in for a treat.
And I hadn't seen these two. I hadn't seen Thief and Keep.
So you were like, only seen half of them, maybe.
Yeah,
so that's what I'm talking about. Like,
You've seen Manhunter, though.
I've seen Manhunter.
Yeah.
But Insider, like when we rewatched it, I was like, this is insane. This movie is out of control. Like the style in this is not. This is not like a prestige Oscar movie. This is an insane movie.
Oh, sure.
He makes weird movies.
Right.
He's a weird filmmaker.
I talked about that a bit on the Moviefone. I saw it because I was 13 years old and it was an Oscar movie, and I was like, I need to see
The Insider.
Yeah.
Yes, I need to see this Oscar
movie. You're going to flip out for
Russell
Pacino.
Crowe.
I mean, you're going to be milking Pacino impressions from The Insider for years.
God.
Yeah.
It's true.
There's one,
but also Plummer impression.
There's also one monologue there's one thing Pacino screams in that movie. It's like 3 solid minutes of screaming. That's as good as anything he's ever screamed.
I want to say two things. One, I was an avid Empire magazine boy when I was a young boy, as I've talked about on this podcast.
It must have been expensive to get that subscription.
Living in England.
Can we get a reaction from you two, Alex?
I'm just laughing. Okay. Griffin wheels away.
He does wheel away.
I told him to.
I don't want to blow out the mic.
And they were always very like, Michael Mann is one of the important directors because Empire was always like a bit of a boy magazine that liked the high end genre stuff. Maybe I don't know why.
A lad mag.
A bit of a lad
as
mag.
your Brits would say.
Because in Britain there was Total Film, which was a little more like, I don't know, it was very broy and very like, yeah, we like, Guy Ritchie, right? You know what I mean? Empire was like classier than that. But not as classy as like Sight and Sound, which is obviously, very academic. And anyway.
I gotta ask, do you three guys have your like Sight and Sound 10 list? Like, have you done it so that you're like, well, someday they're going to ask me?
No, I'd love to do it.
Yeah,
Hit me up, Sight and Sound.
I have like my own general vague 10 in my mind, but
I would have to think.
When's the next one? 2022?
2022. Ehrlich and I talk about all the time.
I gotta get invited to that, right?
Yeah,
Maybe?
right.
My
Let's
God.
do that list.
I've specifically made a Sight and Sound list that's different than my personal 10 or even.
You know who has a terrible Sight and Sound list?
Who?
Michael Mann.
Hey, we talked about it on our Thief episode.
So
Let's bring it back.
You got that out of the way.
Tar.
We talked about the fact that Avatar is on it. We talked about the fact that Beautiful is on it, which is the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah, that's like a famously terrible. I mean, Michael, what a fascinating guy.
He writes well about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's writing books now. He's on Instagram.
Right.
He's everywhere.
He's wild on Instagram.
Isn't Guillermo del Toro doing a Michael Mann documentary?
Sounds good. Can't wait.
Is
it like De Palma?
He pushed off all of his projects after he won the Oscar and was like, I'm going to take a year talking to my 3 favorite living filmmakers.
Okay.
And I forget who the other 2 were, but he's
probably
like, I'm going to sit down with them.
Too.
The third one's Guillermo del Toro.
George Miller. He's basically just doing the bracket.
Yeah.
Michael Mann. That's all I'm seeing. I'm just
Maybe
seeing
it's just
those
the 2 of them.
Yeah.
I thought there was a third.
Well, he said 2 weeks apiece.
Right.
He's doing with each of them.
Right, and I think he's filming it, and he's going to release it as a book. Hopefully, it'll be a long, like De Palma style.
I
documentary.
just want everyone to do a De Palma movie. I made that pitch.
Yeah.
The Paltrow Baumbach.
Right. Yeah.
Like every director who's like 70 now, it should be the law.
Yeah.
That you have to sit down with somebody, and they'll just be like, okay, and next we've got The Keep. Talk for 10 minutes, right? And like the movie doesn't have to be good; it should be fine.
Yeah,
it should be very watchable,
right.
and I want that.
Around the time of this coming out, the piece I've been making on Paul Schrader for the Criterion,
is that?
It's going to be early Criterion Channel.
I was wondering about it because it was going to be for Filmstruck.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
That's what happens when you do something for so long that the thing you're doing it for ceases to exist.
Or that's what happens in a world where things only exist for 12 months before their conglomerate shuts them down.
It's not like that. Because he doesn't want to talk about all that stuff. And it's not a feature length, but it is a man of that age just sitting, giving no shits, and just kind of like...
Which sounds fantastic.
Throwing insults at everyone of his generation.
I mean,
just generally being a maniac. We did get him to talk...
You got good socks right now.
Oh, thanks.
Just speaking
from
of
Pendleton.
Oh, killer socks.
I did get him to talk about Facebook in our final...
Oh, that's awesome.
Our final piece with him. But yeah, it's a great idea. But what's interesting, you see this online, like... The Keep is like referred to as a movie that like Michael Mann doesn't talk about.
Right.
Like if they made that movie, it'd be like he made Thief, then he made this movie called The Keep, and then Manhunter.
Right.
And the way that like a movie that this sort of reminds me of Friedkin's The Guardian, which is comparably a disaster, or equally a disaster, is like in the Friedkin book, The Guardian and Deal of the Century are the only movies he does not even mention in his like 400-page autobiography.
Right. But there's so many movies like this, and we've covered them on this show before, where it's like someone's first film, they were trying to make something that was a little more of a genre exercise. It was taken away from them. They released a version that they kind of disowned, and that's what made them like such a single-minded artist. Like James Cameron after like Piranha 2 is like, fuck it, I'm never taking guff from anyone ever again. I'm going to make the exact movie I want. Like this feels like the movie that like Michael Mann comes out of fully formed, and instead it's like this is the movie that comes after the fully formed Michael Mann movie.
That was also, as you probably covered, comes after years of other fully formed things.
Right.
He's not like some neophyte who randomly made a good movie.
But even just trying to make it through the studio system, like this feels like a first film that someone overcomes.
seems to say online that he wanted to make an adult fairy tale.
That's what he said. An adult fairy tale of fascism.
He threw out a lot of the book.
I wonder why he would want to make an adult fairy tale. It has nothing to do with Chicago. There's no role for Dennis Farina. Okay. Why does he want to make this movie?
So I found an interview with Ian McKellen where he said he did a lot of research on the accent for the character and the time period, and he showed up on set.
Because he's like Romanian. This is like set in Romania.
Right, and he worked on the Romanian thing and trying to be era appropriate, and he got on set, and after the first take, Michael Mann was like, can you drop the accent, make it sound a little more Chicago? Ian McKellen says, literally, Michael Mann said, can you just make it more like a Chicago kind of patois?
Well, he didn't.
No, I mean, yeah, but
everyone in this just uses an English accent.
Yeah.
There's no accents
McKellen's voice is very weirdness. I mean, it does feel like someone who prepped a very specific accent and then was told to drop it and couldn't fully drop it.
I'm very excited. We'll save the McKellen corner for when we get to his arrival in the movie.
We'll do a full performance review.
Because it's fascinating. It's very exciting.
We should do a full
But, like, this is an interesting thing because, like, that's why I want to be here. Like, this is the one to see. Like, if there was a Michael Mann retrospective, this will be the one that you're like,
right.
Oh, the Keep.
Oh, they never screened that.
Yeah, and whenever it's screened in New York, it's always sold out. It screened at Nighthawk years ago, and it was sold out. And it screened at BAM. And yes.
So there is
I couldn't go to that screening.
There's like
a
print. There is, because it used to be. It used to just be on Amazon Prime. Right. And it was like the most hateful, unspeakable print. It looked like someone had pointed a video at a VHS. Right. And now it's been updated. It's better now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because it also used to be on Netflix streaming.
Right. And it used to be very grainy.
It was never released on DVD. It was never released on Blu-ray. The VHS was hard to come by.
And it used to have like a temp score. Right. Now it doesn't.
There is a print that whenever it pops up, it sells out.
Well, fair enough.
It's popped up a couple times.
The other crazy thing. No, I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
Oh, nothing. I just talking about keep on keeping on.
I'll keep on keeping on. The other crazy thing is when this movie came out, I found a bunch of the reviews where people complained that you couldn't hear any of the dialogue because the Tangerine's dream score was so overwhelming.
I certainly don't know anything about movies like that.
Keep people, because there is like a really rabid Keep hive.
There is.
There are people who fucking love this movie, like in the horror community.
Andy
like
Levy
not Michael
is
Mann people. Yeah, well, Andy Levy too.
Yeah.
But like there is like a subsection of like 80s horror people who, for them, this is one of the sacred objects. And those people who have seen the film in many forms, seen it screened, seen it VHS, saw it when it came out, claim that this new sort of digital transfer that exists that you can rent from iTunes or Amazon that is of a slightly better quality, not high def, but of a better quality than the copy that used to exist, that also it maybe was a little bit remastered on the levels and that the music used to be more overwhelming. Apparently it used to be like inaudible.
Both the editing and the audio on the Amazon copy seem like you're watching a work print. Like
it's not great.
Like when you would find like a bootleg in the 90s, it's like, oh, this is the Apocalypse Now work print. Or like, this is the 3-hour Spinal Tap.
It also, watching the movie, you're like, is this him trying to make like the Holy Mountain? Like, is there even supposed to be any attempt at a coherent narrative?
No, well,
because there's shit like Lance Henriksen showing up and then 5 seconds later there's a sex scene.
You mean Scott Glenn? It's not Lance Henriksen.
I always confuse Lance Henriksen.
He kind of has a Henriksen own structure.
I'm very excited by this because I was behind Scott Glenn in airport security very recently.
Oh, how's he doing?
He looks great.
He's
my friend now. I don't know. He has TSA. All I can say is that he has TSA pre-check.
That rules.
That's where we were. He was leaving LaGuardia for some reason. And he looked great. I was very excited.
Maybe he was going to the Keep. He had to blast some energy.
His eyes lit up and he was just on his way.
I'm on my way.
Because isn't that his vibe in this movie? He's just like, shit, gotta go to the Keep. Like, that's like his arc.
He wakes up in Greece and takes a boat to the Keep.
Yep.
There's something weirdly modern about him in this movie where when they cut to him
Scott
for the
Glenn.
First time, right, and even
he's
just
supposed
like
to be like an elemental being, and it's like, what's the elemental being? It's like Scott Glenn with blue eyes, like glowing eyes.
When they cut to him, I was like, oh, so this is like a parallel narrative movie where we're going to cut back and forth between like the 40s and Scott Glenn in like 1980s Los Angeles. And then he showed up at the Keep, and I was like, wait, this guy's supposed to be in the 40s?
Yes. I had two things I wanted to say.
Please.
One,
say anything, guys.
In terms of just Michael Mann talk, he is like the opposite of James Cameron in our purposes, in that he never makes the guarantor in a way.
Yeah.
I was going to ask where you placed his sort of big,
I mean, Heat is, well,
I think Heat at this point is the guarantor.
Yeah, Last of the Mohicans is his biggest hit adjusted for inflation. And I guess that was like, no one could object to that. It made double what it cost in America alone, right? It It was well received, right? Like, man, that's what gets him heat, right?
I have a take. Can I give you my take?
Okay.
My take is he never has the movie that's enough of a hit to be a guarantor.
Heat is
Weirdly,
the closest, I think.
The way he gets his checkbook is because massive stars want to work
He always
with him.
gets casts that
That's
are
the problem,
eager.
is that those people, like, you look at that run and it's like, okay, you have De Niro, Pacino, Tom Cruise, Will Smith,
yes,
Johnny Depp,
Molasar.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, Insider's
and
weirdly...
Viola Davis and Black Hat.
Yes. Insider's weirdly kind of an outlier because it's like Pacino was at the end of his leading man run and Russell Crowe was about to pop.
No, but Pacino totally counts. Totally
but I'm saying the other guys were literally like the second or third biggest box office star at that moment.
But
he always worked with the dudes who were at the fucking top.
Every one of the post-Heat movies, like Insider, like kind of makes what it costs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Ali doesn't make what it costs.
Loses a lot of money.
Collateral makes a little
successful
more.
Because they're awardsy.
They're awardsy and they're well received. Collateral made more because of Tom Cruise, but it costs a lot.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you're like, oh, Public Enemies did well. Oh, it costs a lot, right? Like it's like, I don't think anyone is saying like, I want to be in the Michael Mann business because I love big bucks, baby, right?
No.
Like that's never gonna. So he's weirdly an odd choice for us, but then he always gets checks.
Well, the thing is,
except not anymore.
Right. The thing is, every time
like Black Hat was it.
He seems to be one of those people that has been forced into retirement.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he's always kind of maybe making another movie, but
he was supposed to make a Ferrari movie with Christian Bale.
And now another Mangold made a Ferrari movie and it's coming out this year.
And secretly it's a Western. Mangold cucked him.
But it just seems like the industry has kind of finally had enough of the Michael Manns of the world.
Yeah. Same with Fincher, all these guys. I mean, same with Scorsese kind of.
And these are like these kinds of guys.
Well,
yes. Scorsese, the studios are like, fuck off. No. Too much money.
I don't know about that.
I don't want to not make money anymore. So he goes to Netflix, who will like give him the money.
His movies perform better.
Netflix should make a Michael Mann movie.
He could not get The Irishman made with a studio.
Well, but that's also because he was asking for like $200 million.
And also he wanted the entire cast of Vinyl to play the entire...
Well, one notable exception. There's one person...
I'm not saying that Scorsese couldn't like ever get a movie made again, but I will say like, you know...
These are all very interesting comparisons, and this is why I love Michael Mann, is like, he is so not one of those... He has nothing to do with like the American cinema of the 70s.
No.
Which a lot of those people do.
He's his own product.
Yeah, like he's, you know, like when you hear these kind of comments where it's like, Tarantino says like, oh, the 80s were the worst decade for American movies.
We were just talking
You're
about
all
this.
about
this
the
is
80s.
Your favorite decade.
It's just like, actually, it's like a counterpoint. Actually, they're the best.
Right.
And like,
you're kind of not that into the 70s guys.
Well, I mean, of course I always have been, but I just came to love the things that were of my lifetime more.
So let's talk about some of the, like, who are the 80s contemporaries?
I mean, to me, it's like
Schrader, Verhoeven.
Mount Rushmore is like Michael Mann.
Right.
Schrader, De Palma, who like spans a lot of these things. Like he even has like these 60s movies, and then he is one of those 70s guys, and then he's also one of those 80s guys.
This Mount Rushmore is also a serious coke problem.
Yeah, it's a pretty...
The noses are like...
The alimony this Mount Rushmore has to pay on a monthly basis is through the roof.
The concession stand only has whiskey and mountains of drugs. And cigars.
Oh boy.
But like, you know, like these kind of like, and Friedkin, who again, like is a 70s guy, but I think his 80s work is like phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Like that 80s stuff is just very exciting and it's much more interesting to me. But now like the 80s, quote unquote, in like the Stranger Things sense, close. Telling you, make that mug.
Yeah.
I have the clip loaded. We're going to look at it afterward.
Like the 80s had become like the Stranger Things bouillabaisse. And like, the 80s is like when people say the 80s are bad, it's like, oh, you know, it's just like the Goonies and like kids movies being made by studios. But it's
just
like,
think of Amblin and
it's like, oh, but no, actually the 80s are, to me, like Michael Mann is figuring like Manhunter's in the 80s, American Gigolo's in the 80s. Like,
sure.
But also the
body
80s
heat, like
were
body double.
Yeah, body double.
Yeah, sure.
They're both in there. Casting.
Like,
he's one of your guys. Casting on Mount Rushmore.
He's maybe works in he works in the concession.
Part-time Caspanian.
But it's like those are really exciting when you like look at the 80s. Like to me, it's like, oh yeah, like Michael Mann movies mean that the 80s is very valuable.
Of course,
and this is part of that. But this is like this weird kind of fantasy movie that's not Amblin-y at all. I guess therefore no one likes it.
And also doesn't really work as any traditional horror movie, which like horror is really robust at this point in time in American cinema.
100%, right.
And this is like kind of a weird tweener thing that doesn't fit into any conventional horror box.
Because this is not a movie. basically.
But
I think it doesn't count as a movie. I mean, it's very watchable. Yeah. I actually like it.
Yeah.
There's things I like about it a lot.
It's very captivating.
It's very captivating, but like, it doesn't make any sense. And if you ask the director about it, he's like, well, yeah, we never really finished it.
It's like Piranha 2 in that sense or whatever. These things where they're like, I don't know, I let some Italian guy put his name on it.
They took it away and it's not like a done movie.
I mean, the weird thing about it is there are certain things it gains from being hacked to death like that. Because somehow the weird gaps, the things that aren't explained, these like key like character developments that should happen. Right, it's
just the keep getting to you.
It has this weird kind of dream logic to it.
Keep, yeah.
You know what I'm saying though? Like it does. Yes, it feels like a Jodorowsky movie to me, where it's like you just got a vibe on it. You can't make any sense of this thing,
right?
And
you understand the basic principle, right?
It could be 30 minutes long or 3 hours long,
right?
Both valid, and it's valid. Honestly, like because I'd seen it a couple times, and Anna was like, I don't really need to rewatch The Keep. You can watch that yourself.
Sure.
I was watching it. And
I will say also, I said to you, Michael Mann, and like before I was even done saying man, you were like, The Keep.
Of course.
You always want to pick the one that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, because otherwise,
it exists the least.
Otherwise, you won't have one of your top 10 longest episodes about a movie that has no reputation and is essentially not important to that director's body of work.
Sure.
But I had seen it before, and I remembered thinking it wasn't so great the last time I watched it, and I really enjoyed it the other day. I really found it to be, like, in my mind, it was like a real, like, 2-star movie.
I found it very like aesthetically pleasing. Like I had a certain kind of like ASMR like kind of tingle through watching the whole movie.
It's perfect vibe. I mean
it's very Griff friendly.
It's very Griff friendly.
He can do a wonderful vibe standing on his head. Like
yes,
he can make these beautiful images and this perfect music easily, and he does that here.
I guess that's what's weird though, is that it's such a different vibe than what he usually does. I mean, I was reading through an interview that Roger Ebert did with him right after Thief came out.
Sure.
And Roger Ebert was like, this guy's the new triple threat. He's a writer, director, producer, and he's going to be the new, like, Scorsese, the new Coppola. He's like, Ebert called that he was going to become the next guy on Mount Rushmore, and that this was the film that kind of threw him off the path, that everyone thought, like, well, Thief is his Mean Streets, and he's going to make his Taxi Driver next. Like, this guy's going to be on a miracle run.
Right.
And everyone sort of checks out after Keep for a little bit. And in that interview, he says, do you think you'll ever produce movies that you don't direct? And he goes, yeah, well, I have a lot of projects that I feel like I'm not the right director for. I don't have enough time to do all of them. Like, for example, I wrote this script called Heat that I'm really proud of. I think it's the best thing I've written, but I couldn't even imagine directing that thing.
Huh.
And he said that in like 82. And then he makes LA Takedown like...
Sure. 89.
Right. And then 5 years after, he's like, fuck it, hold my beer. Like, I'll finally, like, make the thing.
Yeah.
But the other thing he said in the interview was, like, Roger Ebert was asking him about his style. And we were talking about how stylized Thief is. Like, how in his own way, Michael Mann is as heightened and stylized as Tim Burton, except it's a very different kind of style.
It's a very extreme comparison.
Well, he said, my style, I like to call it stylized reality. Like, I'm very obsessed with the tangible reality of the thing and getting all the details right, and then I'm stylizing what is real.
Did Ben like the part in Heat where James Caan screams about his clothes?
You mean in Thief?
In Thief.
Of course.
In the car. When he runs down how much every item
costs. He's got the Rolex.
Just making sure.
I love, too, how he just, like, throws around terminology for, like, classifying jewelry. Like, we all know what that means. He's like, it's a friggin' D!
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what that
that's
is.
definitely my favorite scene in Thief, where he just screams about how expensive his tastes are.
Ben scoffed at it and called him a cheapskate.
Yeah. Okay. You should, Alex, I got some... these boys found out about my taste.
Yeah, he recommended a $5,000 shirt to me the other day.
Well, you look good in it.
Thank you.
It looks great.
Yeah.
It's Patreon money right there. Right there on Griffin's shirt.
That is what's interesting to me about... Manhunter is very stylized as well, but still is like that sort of baseline, like he's working off of what reality is. For him to even want to make a fairy tale, for him to want to make a movie that has like magical elements in it, feels very odd with his whole like career.
It's very incongruous. That's why I was so excited. And it's entirely unsuccessful. I mean, it's not his strong suit. It's funny that he's never done anything that doesn't have like a guy with a gun running down the street.
It's the one.
Like he never even, it wasn't like, oh, now I can go back to that. I I made The Insider. Now I can finally like make my fairy tale again.
Right. He seems to have no interest in that. I mean, because he said like he read the book and didn't like it, but liked the idea of making a fairy tale for adults about fascism.
What a gross phrase, by the way.
So
weird. I know, the most unappealing pitch in the world.
But also, that is like the pitch for Pan's Labyrinth.
Sure, I don't like
here's
Pan's
a fairy
Labyrinth.
tale for adult. You don't interesting.
Not really. Okay. I mean, I think it's okay.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting that like you hear Guillermo del Toro wants to do that, and you're like, yeah, that seems like in line with that guy's sensibility.
Right. He seems like a big fat child.
Right.
But Michael Mann seems like someone that would like take a kid's toys away and tell him to like
grow the fuck up.
Yeah, wise up to how corrupt the world is.
It's like you're on the cash register because I gotta go take a cigarette break.
But like weirdly, the sort of like
5-year-old,
the sort of like if there's anything in here that seems like it excites him, it is the sort of like relationship between corruption. And one thing he always does is he always makes bad guys seem very appealing.
Yes.
Like that's true in this movie. You can see why he'd want to try to make something that's vaguely Nazi-ish. Like he makes bad guys seem kind of cool.
Well, and that
in his best movies, extremely cool.
Right. The tough guys making tough decisions, like here's a man backed into a corner. That's like, I mean, it feels the thing that he's connecting with here is the Ian McKellen character, where it's like, what is he going to do in relation to the Nazis? You know?
I mean,
sure.
Like you could see him wanting to be like, well, you know, I like the idea of a movie that's like people guarding something.
Right.
In my mind, it would be like a safe full of money, but this is good enough. The keep will
some sort of spiritual barrier.
Okay, Michael Mann wants to make a horror movie. It's about a supernatural creature that's attacking Nazi soldiers, so they hire a Jew to try to stop it.
I mean, here's what I like about The Keep. I think the setup of this movie is great.
The beginning is very elegant.
The first 20 minutes,
classy.
you're like, oh, this has to be a good movie.
This is like high art.
Because it's like, we've come to this crazy set.
It just feels like Sorcerer, which at this time was like a movie you probably couldn't mention in Hollywood without someone
vomiting.
Right,
exactly.
But it feels like that.
It's this set that's like very stark, you know, and actually cool, not like trying to be, right? It's just
the Keep set with the crosses.
Big fucking pile of rocks with these weird crosses. Mm-hmm. They're Nazis, so you're like, okay.
Jürgen Prochnow.
Jürgen Prochnow, yes.
And everything with Nazis and the supernatural is of interest.
Exactly. Any kind of Nazi spiritualism stuff is weird. And yeah. So they're walking around.
It's so weird. This is coming so soon after Raiders of the Lost Ark. After, you understand how he could sell this movie.
Maybe. I mean, when I'm watching the movie at first, I'm like, is it all about Nazis? Did I forget something?
Right.
But Scott Glenn's going to show up. Ian McKellen's going to show up.
Something I did right much later is that this movie has no main character.
It does not.
No main
It keeps introducing a main character, but then they are not the main character.
Well, Scott Glenn is top billed.
He is top billed.
And apparently he was supposed to be the main character, and they cut out most of his stuff.
Why is it that when movies get cut, it's never from the beginning? They always cut out the good stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's like we need to cut an hour out of this movie. Just cut out the end.
Right. You're a big proponent of most movies can start like 40 minutes later.
Yeah, right.
This could start with him just waking up, like you know.
They open the Keep,
and
then we'll figure it out. The Nazis are there.
Right.
Yeah.
But it is all good.
I like that idea
to
where they're
establish where he is.
Which because it says Greece.
We'll get to Scott Glenn.
Yeah. Okay.
But I just like that idea of there's these crosses. Mm-hmm. They're not crosses.
No.
But they're things.
Yeah.
They're in the Carpathian Mountains, which is already also cool.
It's like Transylvania, adjacent.
Right. It's like a Jewish pyramid.
It's a weird golem pyramid, maybe. Yeah. And some Nazis are like, this must be silver. Let's take it. Yeah. And the custodian or whatever he is.
Yeah. First, they're just like, this is your new outpost.
Yeah. First, they're like, we just have to live here.
Yeah.
And they're stringing up lights.
Yeah. They're got stuck on Monster Guard again.
Someone tries to take... my favorite thing is just someone's trying to take the cross and the custodian's like, don't do that. And no one's like, why? Explain exactly what would happen if I took the cross. They're just like, all right.
One of my favorite.
No one makes an announcement to everyone like, by the way, the creepy guy with the beard said, don't take the crosses. Right. You know what I mean?
Well, they have no reason to believe him. One of my favorite things is any time that they're like, wait a minute, these aren't keeping things out. They're keeping something in.
That's you're right. Best. That's such a good reversal.
And this hits that pretty quickly, and it's very exciting. I remember that was in the preview for one of the Exorcist prequels. I forget if it was the Schrader one or the Reddy Harlan one. But there's like a reveal of statues in a church, and they're like, wait a minute.
I think it's the Harlan
These
one.
Spears are pointing down. They're not protecting us. They're keeping things from coming up.
He's in the trailer. Yes, I remember the spears pointing down.
I was just like,
I think that was the line in the trailer that got me to see that movie.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
anytime that something was revealed to actually be keeping something in, I'm excited. So now, like, the movie is great at this point. Like,
Yes.
Nazis are there. The keep is
I'm
well
all
designed.
about it. And then some.
Had you seen it before?
Yes, I've seen it one time before, but out of like completionism largely. And I think I had watched that terrible version.
Yeah.
And then some Nazis pry open a cross.
Right.
And they get exploded.
They get broiled.
Yeah.
Which is also cool. That is nicely done.
Super cool.
Yeah, the corpse is really
It's also interesting because,
yeah.
like, practical effects, like, Michael Mann doesn't really do that either.
No.
Like, he's not a special effects
Not
guy.
at all. This has to be, like, the only one.
And in fact is now, like, really regarded as being, like, such a master
Very
of
practical exactly.
analog.
He basically, like, teaches you how to rob a bank. Like, that's what the movie is.
Right.
But it is done well.
It's done very well, and I like the whooshing wind stuff, you know, the sort of in and out. And when they open the cross, they kind of found out, like, you know, there's something below the keep. There's like this big cavern.
There's like a shot that pulls all the way down.
Yeah, which is so cool. Love all of this. And then we cut to Scott Glenn, and the movie's basically like derailed almost immediately.
Right. When it should be off to the races, it goes off to the golf course.
Yes,
and you're like, can we get back to the races?
That's the thing. I like all that. And they're like, all right, now let's meet Scott Glenn, Ian McKellen in a wheelchair, and Gabriel Byrne, like in quick order with no real explanation.
I feel like you met Byrne by this point.
No, because
he shows up when
they bring him in when they die.
He's the heightened.
Because he comes in and he's like, it's definitely these Romanian peasants who exploded a guy, shoot them all.
And they just keep saying, like, 8 of our soldiers have died, and then the next time they're like 6 more have died.
Yeah, you don't get to see any of the death,
but you do see like the sort of
couple.
Like the hole at the bottom of the keep is like Moria. It's very exciting,
very cool, very good idea.
It seems very ancient. It's like believable that this is very threatening.
Yeah, don't take the crosses.
Can we say
what are they going to do with the crosses anyway? Like, who's around? Who's
wear
like
them, you dummy?
They only want the one because they're all nickel except for one that's silver.
Right. Yeah. The silver was real good though. That's the important one.
They also do look like tinfoil.
They do.
They do. Yeah.
They're very, very poorly
I wonder
done.
if some prop guy like stole one and still has it like embedded into his wall.
The creepy beard guy at the beginning who's like explaining.
The custodian guy. What's his name? W. Morgan Shepherd.
And he says like, my father did it. His father guarded the keep. His father created the keeper.
The voice he's doing, which I looked it up because I was curious if he was the dude. He sounds so much like one of the movie trailer guys.
He does.
Not Don LaFontaine, but one of the other, like, in a land where everything has turned evil. And then I looked him up, and that's not like his voice at all. That's like the voice he chose for this character. But the way he's like explaining like the mystery of the keep sounds like he's just doing the voiceover for the trailer of the movie he's in.
I also like where the Nazis are like, wait, back up. You live here?
Yeah.
Like, are you in charge? Are you a religious person?
We don't
and he's
question
just like,
it. I do my job. My father did it. My son will do it too.
It's the 20th century. You just like make sure no one disturbs this pile of rock. Like, you know,
if the check clears, I don't question it.
But this is like, I wrote down like when you cut to Greece and then you meet Gabriel Byrne, this is like in the 24-25 minute mark.
Yeah.
Like this is basically a third of the way through this.
Yeah, that's what's crazy.
Short movie.
Yeah.
And everything up until here has been very nice.
Love it.
But then they like find the weird Cyrillic writing.
Yeah, they find the weird writing.
And they're just like, let's go get that old Jew who we're keeping locked up.
Right. Because we've seen.
They do.
We've seen McKellen on a boat with his daughter.
Yeah.
He's kind of infirm.
He's very infirm.
His voice sounds totally dubbed.
It also sounds exactly like Gandalf.
Right.
I can't speak to the ADR. Like, yes, everyone in this movie
it sounds like it might have been
ADR'd.
him dubbing himself.
Yeah, no, I know.
He feels ADR. He's doing this weird, like, Eastern European Gandalf voice.
Right.
And he's, like, pancaked in makeup.
And
you're like, why are they not hiring an old person?
It's one of those,
because Ian McKellen was only like 70 when they made this movie, right?
Right.
He was still a young man.
He was a spry 7.
But this is why I'm glad we're at McKellen now, because this is very, I mean, I don't think of him as being in anything at this time, but I'm sure he was in many things.
No, I don't think so. He wasn't in a lot of things. He was a theater guy, mostly.
It wasn't until, like, Richard III that he really kind of
and
became
that's
a
when,
movie
90?
star.
That's 95.
95?
I'm trying to find, because you have to, all right, not stage, come on, filmography.
I mean, he plays...
Yeah, no, this is his 5th role, but 3 of the roles were made in like the 60s. So like, it's his 2nd role, basically.
Interesting.
My favorite Ian McKellen performance of the early 90s, of course, is him as the Seven Seals
I knew you were going to
version of Death.
I could tell you.
Do you remember that? That Last Action Hero, he plays Death from the Seventh Seal?
Right.
Which is another thing where when you look back at that movie, as with this, you're like, oh, Ian McKellen had a whole career before he was Ian McKellen.
Remember he pops up in I'll Do Anything?
Right.
You know, like that's he used to be like an English guy.
Right.
who you could have play an English guy.
But he's very exciting in this movie. I feel like if you made this movie today, he's still the guy you cast in that role.
Oh, no question.
Well, he'd be so good.
He'd be so good.
I don't know how you de-age. I guess you would just do the Magneto filter on him, right? Yeah.
But it's very interesting. He's very...
Or maybe he just turns into Michael Fassbender.
Well, he does seem to be playing Magneto in this movie.
Sort of.
He is kept in this Jewish
He's like
cage.
a Jew with magic powers.
Yes.
He's been locked away. And then he forms an unholy alliance,
But he's very
tempted by evil.
He's very exciting, but one thing about him is now you have Gabriel Byrne playing a Nazi.
Correct.
Which he is not aesthetically qualified to do.
Sure. Gabriel Byrne, who's Irish as fuck. Yes.
And Ian McKellen playing a Jew. But I feel like Ian McKellen... Does anybody go back and forth between Jews and Nazis more than him?
That's a great.
Because in
Richard call.
Richard III, he's fascistic.
He's a Nazi,
right.
Pupil, obviously.
Nazi, and then this.
You got Bent. He's a Jew in Bent. He's a Jew in the X-Men movies.
Magneto, concentration camp survivor.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything else in his filmography that I'm thinking of that's quite as extreme. Obviously, he played James Whale, which is neither, but
yeah,
sure, but
he's played a couple other Jews. I'm trying to remember.
I mean, the polar bear in The Golden Compass is Jewish, right? That's canonical.
Yeah, well, Gandalf.
Gandalf is Jewish. He says
Gandalfowitz at Ellis Island.
he brings a big platter of lox to the hobbits, right?
Yeah.
At the start of the movie.
Come on, hobbits. Come on, take it easy already.
We eat. God.
Get the ring when we get the ring.
He plays Gus the Theater Cat in Cats this year. Is Gus the Theater Cat Jewish?
Gus is, either a Jewish name or a Nazi name.
I don't want to do an episode on Cats.
Okay.
But I definitely want to do just a performance review of Cats.
Okay.
That cast is so insane and those characters are so stupid that I'm going to be very interested in seeing.
Cats is just a performance review because the plot of Cats is that a bunch of cats do a performance review.
Who plays Bustopher Jones in the movie?
And whoever wins gets to go to heaven, right? Bustopher Jones is being played by James Corden. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's okay.
You want to do it? You want to run it down?
Yes.
Okay.
Idris Elba, McCavity. Rebel Wilson, Jenny Annie Dots.
Well, let us react.
Okay, Idris Elba, McCavity.
Okay. Very logical.
Rebel Wilson.
Idris Elba's in that Fassbender zone right now.
Yeah.
Where it's like, is this guy bankable? I don't know, but let's cast him. You know what I mean? In everything.
Let's
just been in that zone for a while.
I guess he's been in it for a few years.
Pacific Rim was quite a few years ago.
Oh, he's canceling the apocalypse.
He's in Prometheus, right?
Yes.
So
he's
literally in that Fassbender zone.
That's true. He was in the zone there.
But now he's taking clear lead or clear villain roles.
Yeah, let's not. We don't need to react to all these.
All right, fine.
Rebel Wilson, Jenny Annie Dots.
Are you worried about timing?
No, I want to save the timing for Man. I've only
Judi Dench, Old Deuteronomy.
Obvious.
Ian McKellen, Gus the Theater Cat.
Right. Those are lazy choices. Those
Taylor
are just
Swift.
Okay.
Yeah,
Bumble Arena.
Excited about this.
I was so into that.
James Corden, Bustopher Jones.
Sure.
And by the way, I got some intel on Schrader for the piece about his Taylor Swift.
Of course, big fan.
Yeah, I got about why he thinks she's so great.
But he'll talk about it in your thing.
Not to subscribe to the Criterion
channel.
Right. But it did make the final cut.
Well, I mean, we haven't finished yet, but
we're getting to the good shit. There's one that I really want.
Jennifer Hudson, Grisabella.
Sure. Right. Yeah.
Jason Derulo, Rum Tum Tugger.
What's happening here?
Who is that?
Jason Derulo. How does one describe? I mean, he's not an actor.
No,
he's a singer.
It's like an R&B singer.
Yeah, he's famous for saying his own name in songs sometimes.
Right.
Jason Derulo.
Are they in the? Are they going to look like they look in the stage show?
That's a great
one
question.
Can only
or
wait.
is it going to be like the Cat in the Hat? Michael Myers.
We must.
They should do that. He should be in it as the Cat in the Hat, right? He should show up.
Closes the book at the end.
Right. I hope they literally just take the Cat in the Hat makeup, and have them all wear that the exact same.
But there's no. I mean, is there a chance that there's special effects in this movie?
I don't know.
Are they just wearing the stage makeup and the leotards?
God, it's Tom Hooper. Anything could happen.
Anything could happen.
From the twisted mind of Tom Hooper.
This is Christmas this year.
Christmas.
Yeah.
It's literally opening the same weekend as Star Wars Episode 9.
I want to have a movie on the blank check pictures slate.
Okay.
Ooh, that's a goal.
Do you
for
want
the
an
end
existing one, or do you want to pit you want?
I don't know.
You want
I'll see what's in development.
We got a couple good ones developing without any talent attached.
A remake of The Keep starring Griffin as the Ian McKellen role.
Yeah.
No, you got to keep McKellen. Griffin can be the daughter or something.
I'll be the daughter.
Yeah, maybe
His
McKellen has
daughter.
some other. Yeah. You would. Yeah. Let's go back to McKellen. I feel like he is so fun to watch, but he does basically he literally says, as he does in Fellowship, they are coming, they are coming, they are here.
Yeah.
in this movie.
He also says, I am Gandalf the Grey.
Yeah, he's Gandalf the
He literally says that in this movie.
I wanted a scene where after he gets touched by Molasar, he like does a dance, sort of like the Six Flags guy or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory's Grandpa Joe.
Yippee!
You know what I mean? Right here, he's like, I can dance.
Yeah.
You know, like that. That would have been good.
I feel like one thing about that, which is a very exciting scene,
yes,
but is almost entirely shot from the reverse, where you don't see Molasar's face.
Well, because
we should mention Molasar is the name, which is never said in the movie, I believe.
I don't think anyone says that. I mean, but in that scene is a Molasar. He's mostly dry ice, right? He's not yet been revealed as a.
But basically, I mean, it's
prop.
You know, let's assume people maybe haven't seen The Keep.
Okay.
Basically, like, they bring him in to read the Cyrillic, and then they just lock him in a room.
I do like that they bring him in, and he confirms what they've already been told, which is like, oh no, he actually translates it properly, right? He's like,
I wrote down that he says, "I will be free."
Yeah, right. Anyone else who reads the Cyrillic is like, it just says like banana, potato salad, like table leg, right? Like,
but also
it's nonsense. Like I can read it, but it doesn't.
But he is
anything.
in like a camp when they find him.
He's in
like
a camp,
behind barbed
but
wire.
he's like an expert on the mysticism of whatever, you know.
And his daughter reveals that he is 48 years old.
He's 48 years old, but he's
hard 40.
He's a hard.
It got some sitting miles on.
And he in the book, it's like, you know, it's H.P. Lovecraft shit. It's like Molasar is some ancient demon, right? So it's from that.
But then
time.
in the movie, he's represented as looking like Apocalypse.
He literally looks like Oscar Isaac's Apocalypse.
So apparently,
even just the original Apocalypse, the non-movie
it's
Apocalypse.
Fair. I mean, but the original Apocalypse at least has an A on his belt so that you know who he is.
You know who he is. You don't forget his name.
Yeah.
What a cool name Apocalypse is.
It is amazing that no one had taken that one by like the 70s or like by the time Apocalypse shows up.
Big Apocalypse fan.
He rules. He's great. He's stretchy.
Things.
Go ahead.
Of course, this character sort of like materializes more and more every time you see him. He starts out more sort of ethereal.
At first, he's really just wind.
Right.
And light.
Sort of bringing some weird synchronicity to the Hollow Man episode.
Right. Then he sort of becomes like skeleton, then just sort of muscle. Then he starts to have more and more of a human form. Apparently, the idea was that he was moving towards looking like Scott Glenn.
Yeah, he was going to take like Terminator form.
The final fight would be good Scott Glenn versus bad Scott Glenn.
Right.
Instead, he is like this, like, just kind of like stunning, like brick. I do think he looks really cool in the muscle form. But the other thing was, apparently Michael Mann could not decide what he wanted the character to look like.
I've read this too, which is insane. Yeah. I can't really imagine it. So what does the villain look like? He's like, I'm still thinking about it, like, as they're like building this set.
But they were like,
make sure we have a mold of Scott Glenn's face.
Right. But there was like a contradiction where it was like, he couldn't make a decision, but he also was very specific in knowing what he didn't want.
Right.
So he kept on being like, no, it has to be exactly like this.
Yeah.
And they would make it and he'd be like, I don't like it at all.
And this is presumably wall shooting, or at least close to it.
The other thing was they hired a special effects supervisor who died 2 days into post-production.
Right.
And he had not explained to anyone else
how
what
he was
his
going to do
strategies
it.
were.
Right. He was a 2001 guy,
This is another one of those like real... I mean, that sounds like the plot of a movie where someone dies with some secrets, but that feels dubious.
Wally Weavers.
Totally true.
Name.
I mean, it seems to be repeated a lot when you read about The Keep, but how can that be true?
Mann said that he oversaw most of the special effects himself. Like, he ended up taking on most of them himself. And I think they had to reshoot a lot of the stuff with the creature later.
Yeah. Well, when the creature first appears, the Nazis are raping McKellen's daughter.
Yes.
Right.
And he just comes as a big blob of smoke.
No good, very bad done.
He comes as a big blob of smoke, and then he touches McKellen, and McKellen turns young.
Well, but even before that, he like takes her away. He like rescues her. And like a shot that I wrote down is genuinely beautiful.
Sure.
He sort of like carries her off into the smoke, and it's like very evocative.
I like him best when he's smoky.
Yeah.
I like the smokiness.
I like the muscle guy.
No, the muscle guy's cool. You're right. I mean, the muscle guy's cool. He's got the ridges too that you like. You
everything
like those.
Everything about Molasar is cool.
Even when you see his like red hand.
Yeah, his red hand's good.
I wrote down Molasar action figure ?
Okay, so can I tell you how I mostly knew of this movie?
Okay.
This would be like, I spent a lot of time in high school, weirdly, on a horror movie message board.
Right.
Despite not predominantly being a horror guy.
Mm-hmm.
And there would always be certain people who were very vocal about wanting a company to make a Molasar action figure.
Makes sense.
There was always this group of people, because this was like late 90s, early 2000s, where like Todd McFarlane was making all the horror characters in action figure form for the first time. And there would always be people who would like bombard like the Spawn website with requests for Molasar, and they'd be like, no one will buy this. We can't produce it.
I had the McFarlane Leatherface.
Right. It was like all of those characters that like finally were like being made for collector audiences from like horror movies. And the Movie Maniacs series. And I was on this Movie Maniacs message board that was like kind of general movies, but sort of more horror and like action figure stuff. And I just saw like 1,000 fucking like, not even GIFs. It was like pre-prominence of GIFs, just like Molasar JPEGs. And I was like, oh, apparently some people think this is one of the great monster movie designs. And then you watch this movie and you're like, the overlap between people who like this film and buy action figures has to be the 6 people on that message board. It cannot be larger than
I think
that.
a Molasar figure would sell now.
I would buy it.
I think it would sell now. I will say I just Googled like Molasar action figure and Google was like, did you mean Pulsar action figure? So Google's definitely not on my side
I
with
was
that.
trying to find the old forum post and I couldn't do it last
It was my searching of this that led me to the merchandise spotlight that I
Which
shared.
we'll get to.
But he's very cool. And so, yes, you're right. He merges with McKellen and then sort of becomes a full figure. And then McKellen is young.
Right.
The other thing that happens is you now realize why a 70-year-old man was playing a 90-year-old man because he's actually going to spend most of the movie healed, which is, by the way, identical to what happens in Two Towers when they go to Rohan.
He glows up. Oh, right.
Yeah,
and Bernard Hill gets gets
It's just the same thing. It's like someone who's really old, and then suddenly the thing something happens.
Yeah.
But McKellen is actually sick. He's not cursed.
He's sick. He has like an illness.
He's 48, even though he looks 78.
He has what's it called? A scleroderma. Scleroderma.
She's trying to get him to warm it up. Turn on the furnace.
And that's the idea of Molasar. I get the plot if it's happening at this point.
At this
which
point,
is
things
sort
are
of
happening.
like,
So this is where
things
you
start
feel
happening so quickly.
This is where you feel like they just like cut out every other scene.
And once again, Scott Glenn shows up
at the inn,
meets her, and they fuck within 10 seconds.
Right, and the like lighting is completely different. And
there's one part where they're sitting inside talking.
It looks like it's in like Roadhouse.
They're sitting inside talking. And then it just cuts to them sitting outside with like the sunset. And then it just cuts back to them being inside, but it's later.
Yeah.
So you're saying, right, they're literally just like cut.
But she just like shows up and they're just like, there's some guy in your room or something.
And they immediately have sex.
Have we mentioned that his name is Glaken?
His name is Glaken.
His name is Glaken.
Imagine the pitch meeting.
Right.
I'm thinking Scott Glenn and they're like, you're thinking Scott Glenn for the lead? Yeah, I'm thinking of Scott Glenn, but he's going to be called Glaken Trismegistus.
Yes.
And he'll fight Molasar.
He'll fight Molasar. And they're like, all right, can he have sex? And he's like, okay, fine. Yeah, sure. He'll have a sex.
He'll say like,
Glaken Fox. We should say that.
He'll say apparently Glaken and Molasar have been locked in some centuries old battle.
Right.
Will that be in the movie?
Depends if you cut that out or not. That'd be maybe.
Cut. Yeah.
Because the idea is not bad, which is like Molasar shows up, seems good. Here are some of the things he does. Right. Explodes Nazis.
Yeah.
Prevents sexual assault.
All good things.
Cures illnesses.
Yeah.
Seems like a cool guy.
Rad.
And he's like, yeah, okay, I may look like a big muscly, smoke monster, but don't worry about it. I'm super chill. Can you just do me one favor and go and get that talisman over there?
Yeah. Maybe
pull it out and bring it to me. And there's no reason Ian McKellen, who's like a good guy in this movie, wouldn't be like, all right.
Well, he does sort of get corrupted.
It's like a good bargain.
He gets
getting corrupted.
A little bit by Molasar.
Like you make bargains with evil to defeat evil, right? It's a good fairy tale
and he's
idea.
Saying this to McKellen, he's like, you're working with the Nazis. Who are you to say like?
Well, yeah, he was in a camp,
right? But that's what he's saying. He's like, why are you saving the lives of the people who are trying to kill your people?
And this would all be good and make sense if then the movie doesn't. It just pivots to like Scott Glenn shows up and blows up Molasar, and there's no explanation.
His magic
of why.
power is his head can turn into the original theatrical one sheet for Thief. When he glows, it looks like the Thief one sheet with like his eyes blown out.
It also looks like the Arnie model in the Terminator when like Arnie's like, I'm going to cut my eye out, and then we cut to like
the robotic mirror. Yeah.
Right.
One thing at this point is like, this is about an hour in here when the monster.
Did you watch this thing, Ben?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I could not follow it. I thought it was there's fun parts.
The thing is, there's not.
This is what he looks. He looks like that.
Yes,
kind of.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
But like, so I have written here is like an hour and 2 minutes in, Molasar appears in full. I feel like at this point the movie hasn't sufficiently pivoted at all from the fact that like the rules of this world are different now.
Right.
Like it has this insane scene where like a character sort of talks to a demon monster from the depths of the keep.
Right.
And then the movie just like goes on like none of that has happened.
Right.
And everyone is just sort of like, what's going on?
It remains, but then there are occasional scenes such as Robert Prosky drinking a dog's blood.
Yes.
That suggest that like all kinds of chaos is unfolding.
Yes.
But no one explains that. And there's no like expositional sort of dialogue of someone being like, the townspeople are really acting up. Right?
I was also really confused because Ian McKellen's in a wheelchair, but then he's walking now.
Yeah, he gets cured.
Is he hiding
like
it from the Nazis? I couldn't follow.
No, it's a glow up. It's a glow up.
By the way, I mentioned this, I feel like, to both of you at some point, but Ben, no one's brought this up since you said it on the record. You're saying in the Sense and Sensibility episode that if a character isn't shown to be lowered into the ground with dirt being thrown on their coffin, then you don't know if they're dead.
Yeah.
Has changed the way I think about storytelling.
How to tell a story. Right.
I can't believe that hasn't come up again on the show.
Because your complaint, if I remember correctly, just for listeners,
this guy's on his deathbed. Then what happens?
The
So you ever
first
see
scene
him
is a
again?
guy on his deathbed. I think someone's literally
He
like
looks
giving
sick.
him last
How
rites.
do I know he's on his deathbed? Does the bed say death?
I believe you use the term he's on his deathbed.
Wait. If the bed said death, would that be acceptable?
Yes.
Like,
then I would know it's a
someone
deathbed.
just like wrote like death on the bed and you can put it together. Death plus this
I
thing.
love the idea that now every time Alex writes a screenplay, he has to do a Ben pass
Just all the
to make
things
sure it flies by Ben logic.
that Ben has alerted me to are important.
Yeah.
But I do feel like in this movie where a lot of characters are kind of just said to have died, this idea of Ben's that like what happens to those characters.
Yeah.
But this is, I think, a really important Ben thing that's never come back up.
Right.
Unless it comes up in some of the episodes. That I haven't heard.
No. I mean, it's a good one to bring up.
It's a very good one to bring up. Iconic episode.
I could not follow it.
I mean, the problem is that he is our finest film critic, so he throws out so many burning hot sort of points like that. Not even takes, but just burning hot truths. Burn and takes.
But this movie, like, at this point where the villagers are going crazy, you feel like this could be really cool.
Yes.
And there starts being these shots of what looks like a kind of scorched earth.
Right.
Which is exciting.
Whole thing was shot in like Wales or something. I mean, yeah, it looks cool. It's like a big quarry.
Yeah. And there's like a sense of the evil kind of coming out, and there's these constant discussions of we can't let this escape.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of.
There's constant is maybe pushing it. There are discussions.
Keeping in mind everything that I'm talking about happens within the last 30 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
Right.
I also wrote down when he's in his full form, he looks kind of like Zed from Power Rangers.
He definitely looks like Lord Zed, who is a muscle forward person. He's like mostly muscle.
On the outside.
Yeah. It's like, what if muscles were your skin?
But you talk about like tropes you
don't
like.
have a Zed take?
Zed? I was not allowed to watch Power Rangers as a child.
Did you see the movie?
I did. I thought it ruled.
Ivan News?
Oh, I didn't see that movie. I saw the new one.
Oh, you saw the new one.
Right.
But you didn't see the classic one with Ivan News?
No, was not allowed to see it.
Wow.
My mom
you're allowed to see it now.
Was a fucking cop.
She was like, sure.
She was a fucking media cop.
Uh-huh.
I'm allowed to see it now. I've prioritized other things above Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I've seen Turbo, obviously. I've seen Turbo.
That seems
Power
like
Rangers
a potential Patreon franchise.
Yeah, we could do the three.
It's a
Power
Spicer
Rangers.
joint. Let me give you the 3 movies he made. Brian Spicer.
Okay.
It's a hot 3.
Yeah.
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, 1995.
Uh-huh.
McHale's Navy, 1997.
Ooh.
For Richer or Poorer, also 1997. So
And
he
that's
had a
his last
2-film year. That's
film?
the Kirstie Alley is Tim Allen.
It's like a
movie
comedy
in which-
version of Witness.
In which literally halfway in, Kirstie Alley goes like, is this just a comedy version of Witness? Like she literally just says it out loud. And Tim Allen's like, I guess so.
God, what a funny joke.
Is that what he says? Or does
He's like, sure.
He doesn't go.
And then I guess Spicer was done.
Does he just do like TV now? Has he directed like 17 episodes of iCarly?
Yes, here are some, his IMDb is just Magnum PI, Hawaii Five-0, Castle, like all the,
Bones? Bones Boys?
Does he rattle them bones?
He did one episode
He
of
did one
Bones.
Bones.
He was one and out on Bones.
He does one Bones.
I would like to see the Bones boys, Dr. Bones and Special Agent
Mrs. Bones?
David Boreanaz.
I don't know anything about Bones.
Well, it's the what's her name? Emily Deschanel.
Deschanel is Bones.
She's Bones, but don't call her Bones. She's always like, don't call me Bones.
And then Detective Boreanaz.
Boreanaz, who's
right?
like he's like an FBI guy or something, and he's always like, hey, Bones, and she's like, don't call me Bones.
All right. That sounds great.
And they work for the Smithsonian.
And then it went on for 12 years.
12 years. And they're always dealing with if there's some bones. It's like
I'm right.
if the cops find like a regular corpse, they're like, okay, let's call CSI. Yeah. And if they find like a bones corpse, they're like, we got to get Bones in. And so in comes Bones. I feel like Bones would be good in the Keep. You bring him in.
I agree.
This guy got bonesed. I mean, this Nazi is Bones.
This does feel like a great potential X-Files episode.
Yes. Definitely. Cool, weird Frank Lloyd Wright design.
I have a point I'm going to get background to off of that. But Barry Josephson, main producer on The Tick, was also the main producer on every season of Bones.
Really?
And a lot
He's
of times,
a Boneser?
He was like the Bones guy. And a lot of times when like things are going wrong on set, he'll like relate experiences on Bones, and I always have a hard time not laughing. And it's like
this
no
is just
disrespect.
Like Bones. Hey, sure. I mean, you do
find
Bones.
Bones inherently funny.
Bones.
Feels
it's the
like
fact that it's called Bones because I remember this back season 4 of Bones. We had a real tough time with this.
Bones feels like a joke show in the BoJack Horseman universe that Mr. Peanut Butter has been on.
I mean, and look, he's laughing all the way to the bank. Like he bought a house
seasons.
on Bones.
204.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like he's laughing all the way to the massive lawsuit against the studio.
Excuse me, my friend. He won that lawsuit.
He
just made out like a bandit.
Did. Because for some reason, Bones was like at the center of all
Rupert
Hollywood
Murdoch
economics, right?
Claimed that despite running for 11 seasons, Bones never turned a profit.
We kept re-upping it, just thinking like maybe this is the year.
Money. So they did this thing where they like sold the syndication rights to other companies owned by Fox,
right,
and sold it for a discount. Was like, we couldn't get a better price, so we're losing money on the show.
Right.
Unfortunately, Hulu really bent us over the barrel, and they were like, "You own Hulu. What are you talking about?"
Oh, God.
And they did like
so
the same thing with FX. So Barry Josephson like filed a lawsuit against Fox right as Disney was gobbling them up, and like as of 2 weeks ago won, and is now I don't know, going to buy a country.
Did you know that
it's like the biggest lawsuit like ever in terms of like
what if you just used that money to self-finance indefinite seasons of The Tick?
Oh God, I fucking pray. No, it's one of the, there are a lot of these cases where like someone sues to have the studio open the books because it was like everyone who had profit participation on that show never made money because they were told that the show was losing money.
Oh, so that you mean they essentially just got a check for 12 seasons worth of profit.
Correct.
Whew. Bones. Did you know that in Bones,
his way to
which I watched 2 seasons.
By the way, there's nothing you
mic.
could say after that setup that the answer will not be no, I did not know that.
This is gonna blow your mind. The like sort of third or fourth most important character, Angela, who's like the I don't know, she's like the computer lady.
Angela. Junior Bone, or she's a digital Bone.
Angela.
She has this like
Bonist.
What do you call it? Like an Iron Man style 3D projector thing that she's always fiddling with.
Yeah.
In the second season finale, I think it's sometime it's revealed to be the daughter of one of the guitarists from ZZ Top.
Bones.
Now she's not. Like, it's not like the actress is the daughter.
The character is revealed?
The character is revealed to be the daughter of Billy Gibbons, who is playing himself, who is not the actress's father. And this is revealed as like, I never told you, but like Billy Gibbons is my father.
And then what?
And he like shows up and he's like playing a guitar.
What ripple effect does it have on the show?
I don't know.
He just shows up and plays tush and gets out of there?
Yeah. He shows up and sings a bar of legs. And like the actress is played by like a Chinese American woman. It's never explained. Wow. Anyway, I just wanted to tell
you got a lot of Bones theories.
Look, we can have all the
You're
fun
getting
laughs
more
we
animated
want
about Bones than you have about anything in The Keep.
I'm really trying to get you guys
a movie
into
made
this
by one of your
idea.
favorite filmmakers.
Yeah.
The Keep, you're like at a real even pulse, and now that Bones is being discussed, you're going crazy over there.
We can mock it all we want. Emily Deschanel is about to get a cool $40 million check. A lump sum $40 million check.
I'd love it. Bones. All right, back to The Keep. Oh, God.
David.
Yes.
You know who our sponsor
Our
is
favorite
this week?
boys.
Movie.
We love them.
Let's not gender movie.
That's fair. Our favorite website.
Folks.
Our favorite streaming operation.
Yes.
They're an operation. They're an outfit. They're a streaming outfit.
Yeah.
You know, they're a curated streaming outfit. They show exceptional films from around the globe. Every day they premiere a new film. Every day a film drops off. So you have 30 days in which to discover a movie on Mubi.
Hey, wait a second. Our guest, who is very much still in the studio with us right now as we're recording the episode. Of course. Let me ask him, do you have any of your films on Mubi
He's nodding.
Now? Alex Ross Perry is nodding.
He's nodding his
David,
head.
check the computer.
Listen up, Philip.
What?
Oh, I've never seen that movie,
Ben's
Alex.
never
I'm so
seen
sorry.
it. Oh,
You've
my
only got
God.
3 days left on that one, so you better watch it.
You better watch it.
I will.
What else have we got on movie right now? One of my favorite things is just they've got so many SAS movies. I watched Demon Lover,
What's
which
that
I've
about?
never seen. Oh boy, Ben.
Yeah, that really caught Ben's attention. His ears are literally burning at the word Demon Lover.
It's about two like online porn companies that are engaged in cyber warfare with each other.
Oh shit! I gotta see.
Yeah, you would probably like Demon Lover. It's wild.
Ben just pulled out a flaming sword.
They've got a lot of SAS movies up there right now. Personal, he's a blankie winner. We've got Lars von Trier's Antichrist.
Pretty chill movie, right?
Yeah.
Very chill, very chill. Light watch.
Hirokazu Koreeda's Nobody Knows. Beautiful Japanese.
That's a great
director
movie.
of Shoplifters, a great family drama. We got Paranoid Park, sort of an underrated Van Sant. They got some good stuff right now.
A good movie for people who like watching people shower.
Okay.
It's
fine.
true.
Yeah, I know.
Go on.
Tommy Lee Jones is the homesman. No one ever talks about that one.
That's one.
It's a weird one.
That's one I might want to catch before it disappears.
You got some time. Today they added
But not too
Amores
much time.
Perros.
This is what I like about Mubi. You got some time, but you don't have too much time where you take it for granted.
Rather than you being like, yeah, okay, great. They noted, and I'll watch that someday.
Added to queue. We'll watch it 5 years from now.
You're like, oh, better watch it now before it goes.
I've had things in my Hulu queue for a decade.
Yeah.
Mubi, they're not going to let you do that.
So if you want to try Mubi for free for 30 days, you go to Mubi.com/check. That's MUBI.com/check, and you can have a whole month of great cinema for free. That's Mubi. That's it. We did it. Alex,
we hung out recently and we were talking about how, especially with genre films, supernatural concepts, that it's always kind of fun to apply the Twilight Zone test.
Yes.
Which is there any reason this story couldn't be told in 30 minutes?
Right.
You watch Twilight Zone and those stories are so dense. There's so much going on.
Right.
There's real characterization. There's like full story
the
arcs.
Twilight Zone is
turns.
Good.
Right.
This is also just an endorsement of the Twilight Zone.
100%.
Right.
But
the X-Files is like that too.
You go like watch a Twilight Zone episode and then watch like a film like this and go like, is this film taking advantage of being full length?
Sure.
Or is it just a spaced out Twilight Zone episode?
Right.
And this is like definitely a movie where like there is a 30-minute version of this that is coherent.
Mm-hmm. And as I told you, it's called The Howling Man.
Yes.
It is in the season 2 of The Twilight Zone. That's my favorite Twilight Zone.
Yeah. That's your favorite?
That's my favorite Twilight Zone. The plot of The Howling Man is that like a guy comes to a monastery and he like finds some guy in the basement and the guy's like, these people have me trapped here. Let me out. This is crazy. These people are insane. These monks are mad.
Sure.
And he goes up to them and he's like, so that you have this guy trapped in your basement. Should I let him out? And they're like, no, that's the devil. And he's like, that's not possible.
Just
and
because he like doesn't believe in the devil, or
he's just like, that's just some
crazy.
guy. It's just some guy.
Right.
And they're like, you have no idea what it took to get him here. He's been here for a really long time. Don't let him out.
Weird that no one's posted at the door, but sure. Yeah.
Well, there's all these monks there.
Right.
And the whole thing is him like talking to this guy about whether or not these monks are crazy or this guy is actually the devil. Mm-hmm. And it's very similar to this. I love the idea of something.
It's such a good idea.
It's amazing. And the show does it in like 25 minutes. And it's perfect and has the best ending. And it's just about like trapping evil. It's about whether or not you believe in it.
Have you guys ever seen Season of the Witch?
The Cage movie?
No,
I have never seen that.
So
I have seen the Vin Diesel movie. What's that one?
The Last
called?
Witch Hunter.
That one. Yes,
Right, which is based off his Dungeons and Dragons campaign from high school.
Right.
Season of the Witch I love. It's like Nicolas Cage and Ron Perlman as like buddy knights.
Yes. I remember Adam Pally on a podcast once, who you know, you're friends with, telling a story about how Ron Perlman at one point just goes, oh, fuck. And he's like, did anyone even pretend that this was set in Europe?
There's like a big running device in the movie.
Did they just decide not to? Like,
there's a big running like device in the movie that like anytime one of them saves the other person's life or like does a cool move, they go like, next round of beers on me.
Sure.
Which I know beer existed medieval times. No one was saying that. No one's going, hey, I'll get the next round.
Right.
There's a lot of like anachronistic shit like that. But they're essentially
so you're saying
like,
it's kind of like a Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Yes. It rules. I think it's super fucking good. It's a Dominic Senna.
Sure.
And Perlman and
Swordfish.
Nick Cage.
You must love Swordfish.
I haven't seen Swordfish in a while.
Let's go watch Swordfish right now.
Was there some joke at some point that, I forget who I was making this with, that we like to make actors audition with
we did this on the podcast. Okay, that's why I was thinking. All right, carry on.
We talked about the story, but now Griffin knows this. The new thing I like actress to audition with is Kevin Spacey's "Let Me Be Frank."
If you can make that thing sing, you can do anything. It's like putting like the weights.
Do they have to do the accent as well?
Okay. How do I know if they're a good actor?
So it's like at the beginning of the speech is like in Foghorn Leghorn voice. Of
course. How do I know if they're a good actor?
I don't want to see what you've got. I want to see your capacity for mimicry.
Right. But
also
that is literally like the swordfish challenge of giving Hugh Jackman a blowjob and pointing a gun in his head and being like, hack into the Pentagon right now. Right. Like it's like there's so many strictures being placed on.
But it's also
why did swordfish come up before?
I don't remember. It's an incredibly important piece of 2000s filmmaking.
It's like putting the donut weights on the baseball bat when you're practicing so that once you remove them, you can like only hit homers. Like if someone can do Let Me Be Frank, they can do anything.
I was so happy that Let Me Be Frank turned up in an ad read.
I wasn't. When Griffin just debuted that.
Excuse me, I believe you're mistaken. When Foghorn Leghorn walked into this office, a man who has nothing in common with Kevin Spacey.
All right, what were you going to say about Season of the Witch?
Not even a man, a chicken, I say. Season of the Witch. Well, there's a rooster, I say. Bones. In Season of the Witch, Nicolas Cage, Ron Perlman are like buddy knights. The opening is like them going through like different battles, like through like the Crusades and shit.
Sure.
Just being like, next round on me. And then you see them drinking beer. And then you see them in their next battle. And it's like, next round's on you, drinking beer. And then they like need a job. And so they get a job where they're like, look, we got this witch. She fucking sucks. Can you just transport her? It's a midnight run. Like they it's the midnight run setup where they're like, here's a witch in a cage on wheels. Can you bring her to the temple we need to bring her to kill her? And the witch is Claire Foy.
Yes.
In a really good performance.
A young Claire Foy.
It's like one of her first movie roles.
You're just a bunch of boys. Does she say that?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So the movie is them like making it through the swamp and the marsh trying to get to this church. And she's trying to convince them the whole way, like Twilight Zone style, that she isn't a witch. And these guys are like being tested constantly of like, are we becoming like the executors of an inhumane sort of witch hunt, literally, or is this a witch who's manipulating us with her wiles? Right. And the twist at the end of the movie, which is one of my favorite twists of all time, is that she's the devil.
Oh, she is the devil.
The twist is she's not a witch. Right. Witches don't exist, but she does have powers. She's the devil, and that's why they were confused.
Anything that's like again, this goes back to like so-and-so is keeping something in. Yeah. It's like, anything that plays with this is inherently exciting.
Rules.
But could be done in a Twilight Zone runtime.
Right. But this one, I'll say this movie gets a lot out of its mileage.
You better be talking about The Keep now. You can't still be talking about
Season of the Witch.
It's still on Season of the Witch.
They go on a lot of little adventures.
I like in Season of the Witch, much as I like in The Keep, much as I like in, what was it? That's right. The Howl?
The Howling Man.
Much like in Bones, much like in The Howling Man.
Yeah.
In Bones, it's ZZ Top. I always like the idea of like, you didn't even see all the work we had to put in to getting this guy in here.
Love that. That's always the best part.
Exactly. It's like you just see like the edifice we've had to build around him or whatever.
It's for you to walk in, muck up the whole situation.
And this, like the underground realm here is very well designed. And
it
very
is.
Cool.
Yeah. It looks
and it's
great.
very strange to think about how they got Molasar in there and what happened to his other body.
Yeah.
But somehow Gaelic, is that his name?
Glaken.
I don't know how you
forget a name
he's
like that.
Back. He just like is back now.
I think
he's
it's
in love with the daughter, and McKellen's like, you have to help me kill the Nazis, and then they're just teaming up, right? Like,
well, it's like Glaken.
He says he's here to destroy the beast, implying that this is this long back and forth.
Right. And
they're going to do this dance forever, you and I.
There's that moment where like, and Molasar is saying to McKellen, like, get this, you got to pick up this talisman and like bring it out of here, bring it to me. Right? Like he's tasked him with that.
Yeah. Even though Molasar is a body at this point.
He's a body, but he can't touch it, I think is the idea. Meanwhile, Glaken has sex with Eva, the daughter.
And they're in love now.
And then they go up to the keep, and then the Nazis like shoot at Glaken.
Well, because McKellen tips them off.
And he turns green.
Sort of like,
right. McKellen is kind of getting corrupted by Molasar.
Very corrupted. And then he falls down and turns green.
He turns green. He has like green squibs and green eyes.
Yeah, and then he's falling and he's like kind of glowing green.
Yeah, and then he's kind of out of the action for a while.
And now the town is like destitute.
Like the town is everyone's dead or run away or something. It's like a Resident
none of
Evil
which you've
level.
seen, which is weird.
That's all, except for Robert Prosky drinking a dog's blood for 1 minute.
And then from here on out,
it's all
talisman.
No, I'm not. I mean, well, yes, I am.
It's all like talisman business here.
A lot of
Griffin
slow
does seem sad that we stopped at Messi's
walking
it's a really
to a
good movie.
talisman.
I wish you guys had seen it. No, I'm sorry. It was a time sensitive thing.
I wrote the talisman looks like a flashlight.
It does look like a flashlight. And then all Scott Glenn needs to do is sort of push it in to another flashlight to create, I guess, like, you know, the ultimate nullifier, right? To create the weapon that will end all evil.
Yeah. But somewhere in here, I wrote, like, this is when I noticed that, like, we've seen these sort of demonic supernatural elements. And then there's like 5 minutes of just Nazis fighting about their chain of command.
Yes, yeah. There's that whole thing where Gabriel Byrne is like, the answer is definitely kill more villagers. Mm-hmm. And Jürgen Prochnow is sort of trying to be like, can't we not be Nazis? You know, he has this sort of like argument of like, look, Jesus, like, I know we're evil, but...
But at this point, it's
they
like...
have like an argument over
Like,
Nazism.
this is like a Michael Mann thing where like this kind of relationship of power and authority and corruption is of interest to him.
Sure.
But the movie has gone so far past this at this point.
Right, the movie at this point is an elemental battle between good and evil.
Yeah.
And so this scene which
ends with him dying.
But that's where you can see this being a 3-hour movie, even if it was a shambly assembly, because you imagine there's a movie where he gets to explore every one of these things equally.
Perhaps. I wrote down here, do you think playing Nazis will ever be subjected to PC equality?
Sure.
Like,
you mean like you have to be a Nazi to play
Nazi? You have to be a pure blood?
There's so much like you have to be, you know, like, not you have to be, but like people haven't been given a chance to tell their own stories, so don't cast Scarlett Johansson in whatever.
I think it's about time we start stopping Scarlett Johansson from playing Nazis. I think that's hit its expiration.
Well, like played too many.
The Spirit,
sure. Black Widow,
Nazi Silken Floss,
Nazi adjacent.
But do you think this is coming? Because watching Gabriel Byrne be a Nazi and then thinking that McKellen could either be a concentration camp victim or a Nazi.
Yes.
Will this just be something that no one cares about because there's no one speaking up on behalf of
people prefer the rule of like Nazis can only be played by people who definitely can't have been Nazis or be related to Nazis. Because when Bruno Ganz played Hitler, it was like such a story where it was like, oh, German guys playing him? Like, I don't know. Like, that seems touchy.
The guy in this movie, one of the other guys who I thought looked familiar, and then I looked him up, and he was Dietrich in Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I was like, oh, this guy was just the go-to sort of Aryan Nazi dude in the 90s and the 80s.
Who is that? Do you remember his name?
Find it right now.
Wow. Yes, Wolf Collar.
Right. Right.
Right. Born in 1940? Okay. He also played Yuri Andropov in Firefox.
Okay.
And he played a Nazi doctor in Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows.
Yeah, but his like IMDb photo is literally just him in Nazi uniform.
Yeah, that's going to get you.
That's his headshot.
But there is like, you know, that's like a durable kind of character actor in a certain kind of movie at this time is just like, you know, the Nazi kind. Like Klaus Kinski played many Nazis.
100%.
Do you think anyone will ever speak up and be like, Gabriel Byrne is a Nazi? That's not fair. Let that role go to like a true-blooded Aryan. Don't let like if they're playing a priest, call Gabriel Byrne, but like this is unacceptable. You cannot.
Wolf Collar is a German-born character actor who, thanks to his height, 6'2", and blue eyes, was often cast as a Nazi or unsympathetic German character in his career.
Like, how many Nazis did Rutger Hauer play? Many.
Unsympathetic German characters. He also,
Hauer, of course, is Dutch.
He was like an oxymoron.
Right.
He played the fucking German commander in Wonder Woman. Like, this guy's still mostly doing World War I, World War II militant Germans.
Right. Just slap a uniform on.
Nazi officer in Cockneys versus Zombies.
Gabriel Byrne's haircut in this movie is also
London.
Yeah,
it's also very extreme.
Gabriel Byrne's haircut is very, and he's so sallow skinned. I don't know. Gabriel Byrne feels a little lost in this movie. There's another movie from this era that he's so good. Oh, Excalibur.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Which he's incredible in. But he's dialed to like 100 in that one.
He's sort of playing the Ralph Fiennes in this, and he's not the right energy for that type of role.
Yeah. It might also just be weird because it's Gabriel Byrne.
Right.
He's still around, Gabriel Byrne. He got lit on fire just recently.
Lit? What do you mean got lit on fire?
Hereditary.
Oh.
He goes up in flames. It's great.
Yeah, no, Gabriel Byrne's fine.
Yeah, okay. I got worried for a second.
Oh, no, I think as far as I know, he's doing okay.
Lovely man with a kind soul. I don't want to.
Married to Ellen Barkin.
Was.
For many years.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like we're pretty much...
Well, because once
then there's this big
Glacken shows up, there's no fight.
Glacken is sort of killed, seemingly, but then he
comes back. Right,
grabs a pink spear.
Yeah.
And then
plugs
they fight.
The talisman in. Mm-hmm. Ian McKellen sort of has that late revelation of like, oh, you're evil, right? Like, I shouldn't be doing this. Mm-hmm. Like, you're bad.
Right. He's like, hey, you shall not pass.
He very much says that.
You shall not pass.
And then apparently there was like some battle they were going to film that they like didn't have the money for.
Yeah, this is interesting. I watched the extended ending on YouTube.
Oh, there's an extended ending on YouTube.
Yeah, it's not any of this like special effects stuff that got cut. By the way, for people, both of them just grab devices.
Yeah, excuse me.
It basically
I'm Googling the ending.
It's like apparently the TV broadcast included some footage that had been used in the trailers.
Weird.
Which by the way, like what a fucking time to be alive where that was just like,
if you watch something on TV, you might see this.
You might just see like 20 extra
footage.
Minutes that someone had for some reason found.
There's something going on here where like Scott Glenn is sort of like
so basically
falling through space.
So the movie like ends with a split screen.
Right.
And then basically what this extended ending is just like another 5 minutes.
Okay.
Where she sort of goes from that split screen, and then there's like a bit more with Glacken, who sort of has survived, and they walk off together in a sort of like tacked on happy ending sort of thing. Where he's not,
on the Wikipedia,
he's not trapped in the keep with Molasar in this sort of extended television ending.
Because of this, several new endings had to be filmed long after the crew and original cinematographer had left the production. Originally, Mann had 2 ideas for the film's climax. One with a battle between Glacken and Molasar on top of the keep, one taking place inside the keep. The original climax that Mann chose involved Glacken and Molasar in an epic effects-laden battle on top of the keep tower that ends with Glacken opening an energy portal that blasts forth from the ground of the keep.
Right.
It was to be a dimensional portal, which would have had similar effects to the Stargate in 2001. After that, Glacken would materialize in the cavern below the keep by a pool and be reawakened as a mortal man.
Okay. Maybe Scott Glenn.
With the constant production extensions, film's already well over budget. Paramount refused to pay for the filming of the additional footage, so the simplified ending Mann put together for release film was a weak, somewhat unsatisfactory compromise. The other thing it says here is he had originally built Molasar as an animatronic, and they spent however fucking much money building the animatronic and brought it to set and filmed it, and then he was like, nah, I don't like this.
Yeah.
And then they had to start over, make it a suit for a performer to wear, and then reshoot all that shit.
That sounds bad.
They shot for 22 weeks.
Okay.
I would look at this
22 weeks is long, right? I'm not in the biz.
That's almost half a year.
Yeah.
That's a fair amount of time to sink into a movie.
5 month shoot.
That basically will never be complete.
Yeah.
And is, 90 minutes.
Right. And grossed $3 million.
Crazy.
But yeah, the endings are sort of like, they're all unsatisfying.
They are.
But then the whole town kind of reverts back. Like all the terror.
Him being blown up is all that town needed. I mean, it still has the issue that it's under Nazi control.
Yes.
That's going to be...
Well, most of the Nazis have been killed.
Sure. Maybe they'll send some more. I kind of like the idea that Hitler makes it his number one priority to figure out what's going on in this keep and is just like throwing Nazis at the keep. Like, that would be a good sequel. I like any...
Return to the keep.
I basically just like any The Mummy style... you shouldn't have picked up that fucking brick. You're ruined. Like, I'm just always into that. I love that in The Mummy, the Stephen Sommers Mummy, so much of the plot is him needing to get his internal organs back because each American took one jar and he has to like annihilate them one by one. Like, movies need more of that. They need like villain business before he turns into a big thing.
I also love the thing in this movie where it's just like Scott Glenn is awakened and then like every 10 minutes you cut to him on like a motorcycle or him at like a diner on the side of the road.
Right.
They're like, where are you heading? He's like, somewhere important. Like, it's just this looming threat of like, the guy's coming. And then he shows up and he's just like, power sword.
It's vaguely Scatman Crothers in The Shining and his sort of approach.
Right.
The biker in Raising Arizona, where you're just constantly cutting to him getting closer and closer.
I think one of the deleted things that I read about online was that like he charters that boat from Greece and then kills the people on the boat, and there's a whole like the sequence showing that he's sort of like something bad as well. That he's like the other half of Molasar.
Yeah. What a weird fucking movie.
You never really know what Molasar wants. As you said,
he wants to get out,
killing Nazis, which is valid.
A home, a family.
But yeah, that's a good point. It's not like Molasar says, like, once I'm out of this keep, boy, I'm going to kill so many Nazis, or he doesn't have like a pitch.
I'm finally going to write my novel.
Well, this does happen in the Twilight Zone episode where
Musings by Molasar.
A sense of like, if he gets out of here, X will happen.
Sure.
Right.
It is very exciting when they sort of, the idea of there being a keep is very exciting.
Well, all of these things that we're talking about, the sense of looming progression, objectives that everyone's circling around trying to figure out how to realize and complete, sounds like it would be perfectly suited. I'm losing my ability to speak English. It sounds like it would be perfectly suited for a board game.
Well,
I lowered my glasses.
He did.
You're in luck, Griffin, because I found such a board game.
Whoa, what?
Can we play it?
There's a fucking Keep board game.
Like,
they thought kids were going to want to play the Keep
It's
at
not
home.
on eBay, but there's a thing I found that I sent about it.
Yeah, and like Board Game Geek.
But it's not, there isn't one on eBay for $5. But it seems to be one of those 80s board games that's just kind of like squares and pieces.
Yeah, there's a maze. You move some pieces around. You got to stop the monster from
It's not like
a
modern board game of the Keep would be very exciting.
But that would be like an adult, serious.
It would be like
the adult fairy tale of board games.
Yes.
Right. There was a board game and there was also a role-playing game.
Wait,
there was like a Dungeons and
game?
Dragons style role-playing game.
Guys, should I buy the Keep board game? Should I buy it for the
live show?
And they were
$40.
Oh, it is on there.
Board Game Geek.
Okay.
That's where you gotta go.
David just pulled his wallet out.
You're getting the board game or the role-playing game?
Wait, you want me to get the role-playing game?
Maybe I'll get one. You get the other. What is Ben pointing?
Ben just found a board game called Too Many Bones.
Okay,
too many.
Okay, well,
do you think that they were really counting on this movie, like hitting that they had this merchandise? I mean, this is an.
Do you think it was just like they brought in the merch guy? Because we're talking, this movie's coming out 5 years after Star Star Wars, 6 years.
Yeah.
So now there's like a Paramount merch guy. And they're like, here's the script. What do you think? And he's like, a board game? Like they're sort of like, you think toys? And he's like, we can't make Nazi action figures. Okay, all right, toys are out. What
about Molasar? It's like, no one wants a figure of the big main demon.
No, but do you think they're like, what about Molasar? And he's like, sure, what does he look like? And they're like, Michael Mann won't tell us. So all right, okay, then Molasar's out. And so he's like, it's like a Keep, it's like a maze board game? Like,
I guess
could we do like
it.
Snail's Pace Race? But it's like,
but as like, this is an R-rated movie, right? Like an R-rated adult
100%.
fairy tale.
Yeah, it has boobs. It has explosions.
And like they still were just like, we'll make a game.
We'll make a board game.
I just placed a bid on the Keep role-playing.
All right, so you're after the role-playing game.
Can I just read you this from the back?
You guys are going to own the world's majority of Keep-related merchandise.
I just like in the board game, there's like character cards.
I do like those cards.
So this is compatible with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. You can use this with Dungeons and Dragons.
With Advanced? So that's second
It says
edition.
Advanced.
Yeah. No, I'm not as good because I can play Dungeons and Dragons, but I'm not as good at the older editions.
Well, let's play the Keep. It's produced by a company called Roll Aids, which I imagine they probably changed their name a couple of years later. But here's what they say. The Keep is a faithful and detailed fantasy role-playing adventure based on the major Paramount Pictures film release of the same name. Not only will it pit you against the forces of death and evil, but also against the might of the German SS. Okay. The Keep features a new set of rules and charts that let you include modern weaponry and tactics in fantasy adventures. It's designed for 3 to 6 characters.
That sounds great. The thing is that this movie, again, I really did enjoy this viewing of it.
Yeah, sure.
It sounds great on paper. And when Anna was like, so why didn't we like it last time? It's just like, well, I think when you hear that there's this kind of like vaguely lost Michael Mann movie about Nazis and this big Romanian thing, and it's got a Tangerine Dream score, and you watch it and you'd be like, well, it turns out that everyone was wrong. This is one of the best movies of the 80s.
The score is so weird because it's very like melancholy. Like it's not like a thriller score at all.
I did a bit of Tangerine Dream score research, and it says that the soundtrack for The Keep, first of all, it has like this whole complicated history of never being properly released.
Because I was like looking for these tracks.
So there's this whole complicated history of the soundtrack of this movie where like it was based on previous Tangerine Dream music.
Oh, weird.
So neither Paramount nor Tangerine Dream owned it.
Weird.
And it was therefore never released, and every version of The Keep has had different score in it.
Right.
Like I guess if this print screened, it would have a different score than what we saw on streaming, and the VHS supposedly also has a different score.
Man,
and then they never sold
that's
it.
Insane.
And then like a couple years ago or 10 years ago, they sold 150 copies of it just at some concert.
Whoa.
which is very highly sought after.
They just like self-produced.
They were just like, we're finally going to release the score of the key. But then you look at it on Wikipedia and it says, this is like Tangerine Dream's 19th score and 47th album.
Yeah. They have 100 fucking albums.
They, like that. They just do that every 2 minutes.
Tangerine Dream just coming to the studio?
I hope that's the setup for an ad read. Right. There's a Tangerine Dream.
It's a theremin.
Yeah. But I saw Tangerine Dream a few years ago before one of the main members.
That's good.
That was good.
It's good.
Go ahead. One of the main members died like recently.
Oh, Tangerine Dream?
But like 2 or 3 years before that, I saw them at a church on the Upper West Side, which was very fun.
That's cool.
Oh, Jesus. Their past members list is fairly long.
Yes. Everything on every list on their Wikipedia is long.
Look how many lineups they've had. My God. And yet it's always 3 people. Maybe 4 or 5 people now.
Has there
like this is their lineups graph?
Yeah, right.
It looks like I don't know, like an SNL cast.
And then that one that's unbroken must be the one that just died until it ends.
Edgar Froese, who did just die. Yeah.
This is like a very what I love about stuff like this and the sort of like claiming this is like I feel like it's hard to understand like a Michael Mann filmography without the curiosity of curiosities. And not every director has a great curiosity.
Sure. No. Right.
I feel like a lot do, but this is like a curiosity to rule them all.
Here's a very serious question.
He even did the curiosity big. Right. That's the thing. Like, he can't do anything by half.
Like, as I said, of like the Friedkin curiosities of The Guardian and Deal of the Century, like those are unwatchable.
Sure.
Right.
But if you do Friedkin, I'll do both of those.
Okay. We'll do it as a double bill.
Yeah.
At Kim's, we had a sealed used copy of Deal of the Century for the entire time I worked there.
Wow. And no one ever cracked it open.
For 3 years.
And I'm saying
no one ever bought it.
Right. Molasar would have escaped.
Yes.
Right? That was actually it.
They trapped him in a DVD of Deal of the Century. One thing that's...
Which Kim's did you work at?
The one on St. Mark's.
The real one.
Yeah.
The original.
Did you go to the Jersey one?
No.
Because there was one in Jersey. Maybe around the time you were living there.
No, I wasn't familiar, but I went to Kim's all the time. I rule.
Maybe
I went for records.
Yeah.
That's why.
The vinyl was on my floor for a couple years.
Oh, word.
I don't know if we've talked about this. I almost definitely traded in DVDs too.
You were the buyer.
Definitely.
I did a lot of buying.
Yeah.
If you came during the day.
How long did you work at Kim?
3 years. Mm-hmm. Almost exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I almost definitely sold you like season 2 of Seinfeld.
Well,
so that I could buy whatever fucking...
Season 3 of Seinfeld?
Yeah.
Well, season 2 was on the season 1 and 2 were a single package.
They were, because season 1's only 4 episodes.
But do you remember another thing that we had that sat around forever was like, I forget what they were, but it was like these DVDs. It was like AFI Presents, and it would just be like a 1 hour thing with some filmmaker.
Okay.
But there's like one of Michael Mann that
they were like a
where
talk?
He's just like,
yeah, it's just like a sort of extended special feature.
You don't know what he looks like?
No.
Look him up.
He looks exactly like you'd think he looks.
Yeah, he looks like a lawman from the 19th century.
Oh, you know what I think those are from? Because I'll sometimes see those like outtakes on YouTube. When AFI would do their like 100 years, 100 blank specials, they would like pick filmmakers, sit them down and be like, we have like an hour of your time, pick like 12 movies you want to talk about from this list. So they would like cut in them as talking heads on whichever ones they pick. Like I've seen 40 minutes of Spike Lee being like, pass. Like they're reading it off to him.
This is my thing.
Yeah.
You have to do them all. It's the De Palma thing. You have to do them all. I don't care.
No, because they're not talking about their own films. They're talking about the AFI list, and they're going like, Spike Lee, do you want to talk about The Searchers? And he's like, no, next.
Yeah, but in terms of like the Michael Mann director cut, like he seems to have said, as we alluded to earlier, that like this one's not worth it. It would be too difficult. The materials are too disparate.
This is exactly what I want to see. Like
the Keep director's cut. Well, it seems like one of those things. It almost seems like one of those things that would be done by fans.
Yes,
like a fan reassembled,
like The Thief and the Cobbler.
There'd be some Kickstarter or something, right? Like that's how it would happen.
There was a Kickstarter to make a documentary about the making of the Keep.
I feel like I saw things about that. It might exist.
It raised a fifth of its asked for.
Right, that's the thing. The Keep is just never going to be important enough.
But people are rabid. It's just a small.
But it's very small.
Yeah.
Do you remember like the Nightbreed director's cut a couple years ago? Mm-hmm. There was like all the like as it got similar to the Metropolis thing, as it got more extended, the footage got lower quality,
right?
To the point that like 20 minutes in this thing that was like released and available for sale, was off of a VHS with time code on it.
Oh wow!
You can't even get the time code off.
Well, that's
no, it's burned into the only copy of the dailies that Clive Barker had in his house.
The Manhunter director's cut, like Shout Factory just put Manhunter out, and the director's cut is like noted additional scenes are in standard definition.
You know what's that's very interesting.
So I don't think he ever did like a full proper recut.
I'll say this about the idea of a Michael Mann and a sort of tinkerer.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking about like just like the power of DVD, as we all know and love.
Love it.
Like director's cut is a very exciting phrase because it makes you feel like there's something different.
Sure.
But nothing was ever more exciting than the phrase alternate ending.
Yes.
Alternate ending is the best one, which is usually
phrase.
in a circular sticker or something, right? Like it's like
the biggest selling point. But to say that The Keep has multiple possible endings.
What's the last movie that did that?
Had an alternate ending?
Like, because I remember like Napoleon Dynamite came back with a new ending. Like where movies would do that occasionally, where they'd be like, it would be re-released in theaters. And like, hey, come, and there's a new ending.
Well, Avatar was re-released, but not with a new ending.
I'm just talking like as a DVD.
I know what you're talking about, but I'm thinking of this gimmick.
I Am Legend.
Yes.
But that was for Blu-ray, but they were like, we pointedly have a totally different ending because people were so unsatisfied. They like finished the effects on the other ending.
28 Days Later, I think.
This isn't an ending, but they just re-released A Star Is Born with like new songs.
They did?
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah.
It's a very old-timey gimmick.
Which I weirdly, even though I love that movie, like had no interest in attending. I was like, I already did that. Like, I'm very emotional about that movie. I don't need to see.
Not a real starhead.
Well, that's how I feel about Miami Vice too, where it was like there's a director's cut. I was immediately suspicious. I'm like, I don't understand how you would improve that movie.
Does Michael Mann still hold your faith at this point?
100%.
Even though he, sort of tinkers with and occasionally fouls up his movies.
I mean, people say that.
I don't mind that.
The Black Hat is better, right? Have you seen
the Black Hat? Just makes it make sense,
right? It's like he put it back in the original order. Okay, the clock is ticking.
What is that a countdown to?
To Ben kicking us out of the studio.
I mean, maybe by the time this episode posts, there'll be more news. I'm trying to get the Black Hat director's cut for you guys.
Okay.
Did you know that I was doing this?
No, I told you that.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Because we want to be able to screen the Black Hat.
Yeah, I'm trying.
That's our dream for the end of this.
I can follow up, but I'm trying to track it down.
Right.
Yeah.
From someone at Legendary who produced Black Hat. And, is not the person responsible for losing $100 million on Black Hat, but still works there.
Black Hat's the one where it's like every other Man movie. You're like, look, it didn't make a ton, but
it cost $100.
Black Hat's the one where you're like, oh Jesus,
it made 9.
Did it make 9?
It like opened in January, and I think
it's like January 5th or something.
Right. It opened like first week of January. I think it
opened in like the Kevin Hart comedy slot.
It made 8. I was overshooting.
That's astonishing.
It crawled to 8. It made 8,005,980.
Opening weekend was 4. Or 5.
3.9.
Wow.
I mean, that's catastrophic.
A movie directed by Michael Mann, starring Thor, came out in like while we were doing this podcast, or right before we started it.
Yeah.
In January, released by Universal. I saw it at the Court Street Theater with no one in attendance.
I remember going to see it during whatever that was like the last major snowstorm where people are like, you might not be able to leave your house for 3 days.
Right.
And I was like, fuck, I want to see Black Hat before the snowstorm hits. And I went to the theater and was like, I might get snowed in. I might have to spend 2 days in the Magic Johnson Theater. And that's a chance I'm willing to take.
Right.
But this really refutes my notion that he's like, become one of the guys.
It was weird how no one showed up for that fucking
that's
movie.
a bigger bomb than I think any other major director has had in the last decade.
That's one of the biggest bombs of all time.
It's a huge, it's an indefensible
because it truly was an over $100 million budget, right?
It's listed as 70.
I think it
may have cost more.
Yeah.
But it also, then he was like, a director's cut. It airs on FX only one time.
He screened it once at BAM.
Screened it at BAM one time.
And not even FX, he put it on Epix.
No, I recorded it off
really?
FX with ads.
Crazy.
And I watched it.
Yeah.
That's the only time I've seen the director's cut. It moves a crucial event from the end of the movie to the beginning.
Right, which at the beginning of the movie, but there's also,
We'll talk about it on the Black Hat episode.
We'll talk about
Black Hat episodes. One thing I did think during this, Ben, obviously the clock's gone off, so we only have another hour.
Yeah.
But sometimes I like to think of
the new clock.
Sometimes I like to think of
overtime clock.
It's hit 0 and now it's going up. Sometimes I like to think of fictional movies.
Sure.
Like movies that like, oh man, that would be great. Mm-hmm. And I have one that I think will excite both of you.
Okay.
Perhaps David slightly more so. Collateral is what, 2003? I was going to say 4.
Yeah, it might be 4.
Michael Mann's
4.
Mission Impossible 3.
Oh my God.
Like, could you imagine a better movie existing in the world than if Tom Cruise
he was floated at some
point? If Tom Cruise was just like, I'm going to do what I do. You're my guy now.
Right. I loved making Collateral. Yeah. You're going to fix Mission Impossible.
Like, can you imagine how good? Because my friends and I, we used to always say that the best thing would have been if after Titanic, as a palate cleanser, Cameron made Mission Impossible 2.
Oh my God!
And just like totally analog action movie, and it would be profound.
Yeah.
But now this has replaced my ideal. All my fake movies are Mission Impossible sequels.
Well, as they should be.
Wait, 3 was Fincher.
No.
Originally, then Fincher quit. They announced Fincher.
Carnahan.
Before that, it was Fincher. Fincher was developing 3. They announced it. He quit. He was like, I don't want to be doing franchise shit. Then I feel like there was a point where a couple names got thrown out. I feel like I remember Mann being on that list. And then Cruise saw Narc, hired Carnahan. Carnahan was 2 months away from filming. He quits.
Had Cruise seen Collateral, though? That seems like the obvious.
This is around the time he's making Collateral.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems...
Carnahan was hired after Cruise saw Narc and was like, what a movie.
Right. And that's 02.
Yes, and
I feel like that's when it happened. I feel like after Carnahan quit, at a moment there was like
Carnahan quits in July 2004, so that's right when Collateral's coming out.
Right?
I feel like Cruise put him on a list for a moment.
But this is the no, because it's like 2000 Carnahan quits July 2004, and there's that famous story of like Cruise saw Alias, like he like holed up in his house and watched it all and called Abrams almost immediately.
Yeah.
Like the only reason he wouldn't do this to Mann is they had just finished a movie.
Yeah.
Right.
And at the Collateral premiere, I think, is when Jamie Foxx buttonholes Mann and is like, we should do Miami Vice, and pitches him on this whole thing with like a license plate as the final shot before they cut to credits. Do you know? But we'll talk about this on the Miami Vice. Jamie Foxx had like this whole where he was like, "Here's how we begin." Like he's yelling at Michael Mann's like, "Sure,
let's do it." He put headphones on Michael Mann. It was playing Linkin Park.
Like, this will change your life.
But you're right, because Carnahan is like a D-list Michael Mann. Like it's right. Like it's like if you're going for that energy,
if that
he was jazzed on.
There's nothing that I think is a more tantalizing, non-existent movie than
that would roll
at that time when like there's really not a lot of special effects, and he wouldn't have done them anyway, and those movies don't have them.
Right.
But he's never done anything like that. What's amazing looking at his filmography after watching this is like everyone feels like a passion project.
Yes, right.
Which is crazy. You can't say that of very many.
Everyone feels like he swindled a studio into giving him money.
Yes.
Right? Like it's like that he tricked them somehow.
Yes, somehow. And like everyone feels absolutely like the thing he wanted to make at that time, even this to some strange extent.
This is the weirdest one though. What are you looking up?
No, I was trying to see if I could find any moment where Michael Mann was like rumored for one of the Mission Impossibles. But it does feel like, I mean, now that Mission Impossible has become one director's franchise and it's moved away from the like new guy every time, it does feel like that's the only way that Michael Mann would get a movie made ever again.
Well, it's sort of like how
if it was part of a franchise like that where the actor was like, I demand that you hire.
Right.
Like if Hemsworth was like, Michael Mann is doing Thor 4.
Not opposed.
But see, that doesn't seem like he would. That doesn't seem like that would be.
He could make it an adult fairy tale.
Yeah, about fascism.
Actually, now you've changed my mind. Yeah.
But no. The man. What was I going to say? It's like World War Z 2, right? Like that's how Fincher was going to get back in.
Right.
Right.
But also, like Michael Mann's like 76.
He's 78. He's old.
Wow.
And he just put out a book. That's why he's on Instagram.
No, you're right.
He's promoting his book.
Right. Yeah.
And then you're like, the last time he tried to do TV, too many horses died. Like, it's not even like, well, I'll just go back to TV. Like, he's done TV. That's not exciting.
There's nothing like Luck, where they were like, a horse died, and people were like, oh, that's sad. And then, like, 2 days later, it's like 3 more horses died? Like, it wasn't like 1 more horse.
Sounds weirdly like the plot of The Keep.
Yeah.
It's just like they just
kind
keep
of,
dying.
right. Maybe but like, have you seen Luck?
No.
God, it's weird.
Nolte
and Hoffman just are going, like, there's no plot. It's so weird.
The craziest thing is that they
renewed
it.
Right. They unrenewed it.
Started season 2. They filmed for like 6 weeks and went like, I'm sorry, too many horses are dying. Like the bad press was coming out about the horses having died while season 1 was airing. Right. They were like, horses be damned, we're going ahead. And then they started a new season. 5 horses died in like halfway through the first episode. And they were like, we're cutting our losses. Because Mercedes Rule, there was like a Deadline story that was like, Mercedes Rule is starting her comeback. She's largely been off the screen. And now she's coming back. She's the new co-lead of season 2 of Luck, and then 6 weeks they were like JK, LOL.
They were like JK, LOL.
Yeah, told ya, JK,
yeah,
LOL.
They Tell Me You Love Me. That
and
one.
he directed the pilot and then was kind of like an overseer.
Was executive.
Was an overseer. He only directed the pilot. Mimi Leader directed an episode. Terry George, like he brought in, Philip Noyce directed an episode.
Wow. Once you get to it, I hope you cover like his weird kind of 2000s producing career.
Well, we got to.
Like The Aviator. And like other, like,
right. He wanted to make.
He just seems like one of those guys that like develops way too much.
Yes.
And then doesn't end up making half of what he
and he used to be able to do that because so many A-list people wanted to work with him that he could set it up and they would buy it at the promise of you got Brad Pitt attached. The other thing is that all of his premises, if you give them as an elevator pitch,
so happy right now.
The Keep. Keeping on.
All of his movie premises in the form of an elevator pitch sound commercial, especially combined with those actors.
Yes, and then he ruins them by making artistic movies.
But you understand why people kept on giving him $100 million because they're like, it's like a gangster movie with Johnny Depp in 2010? Nine? That has to work.
Christian Bale.
Right.
That movie has one of the insane casts.
Of course. That movie is crazy. That movie has such a good cast. I can't wait to see. That's the one I've only seen once.
Me too.
It's the only one I've only seen once.
I liked it a lot.
When we did our little series when Black Hat came out, we didn't revisit it.
In my famed spreadsheet, it is Christian Bale's only nomination.
What?
Isn't that crazy?
You don't like Bale that much, right?
I like him fine.
That's crazy. That's the only time you've
tough to make the 5.
Ben's leaning that microphone like he's Tom Jones.
It's tough to make the 5.
Tough to make
David,
those 5.
do me a favor and eat a bowl of farts. Tough to make the 5.
Tough to make the Sims 5.
Oh my god, he is so proud as he says that to me.
And poor Ben looks like he was going to say. Ben was about to.
5.
What were you going to say, Ben?
I want to sort of on the record say why I think
this one's coming out in May.
Yeah, I think that man.
May the 4th be with me.
I don't know enough about if he has he's had hits, but we're talking about his flops.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just say, I feel like his pseudo intellectualism is like this thing where it's like, it's not for smart people, but dumb people don't really like it. That's the best way I could explain.
That's very apt. He's, these are smart movies. These are not
they're
also kind of about little boy subjects. Like they're about like cowboys and Indians and cops and robbers.
I mean, Collateral
are like kind of rough around the edges.
Right. The pitch of Collateral is something a child would come up with.
Right.
Like, what if a cab driver, that's a great pitch, but it is a kid pitch.
Right.
Kid pitch. That's a new idea. Is there a blender in the Keep?
No, there's nothing nearly.
Is there any blenders you've discovered recently that you felt were particularly blendy?
No, I feel like you should keep a lookout for them. He's too smart for stuff like that.
Yeah, man is not really
something
blendery.
That you're not going to find a lot of blenders. You're not going to find a lot of super hammy performances in these. Not going to find any. You're not going to find any jokes in any of these movies.
Well, no, there will be jokes, but they'll be delivered with utter seriousness.
Like there's a few jokes in Collateral, but I think you might go
Collateral's kind of funny.
10 movies without any humor.
Miami Vice has that weird monologue where Jamie Foxx is talking about how if people stand still, they're skyscrapers, that whole thing, which is delivered seriously, but is a joke.
Yeah.
He's not a humorous guy.
No.
Something but to Ben's point, this is what I love about his movies. They're not if I were to say, this is a phrase we use at home a lot, a pizza movie, do you know what that is?
You mean a movie you watch while you're eating pizza?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Movie that
I know exactly what you're talking about.
You can instantly picture it in the car on top of a box of pizza in a video box coming home from the store.
Right.
And this is a 20-year genre.
Yeah.
Right.
That
it's
sometimes
The Client is a pizza movie.
Well, any Grisham any
movie.
Cruise, any Gear, any Harrison Ford.
Right.
It's a pizza movie.
Yeah, Presumed Innocent, which I just watched.
Classic
That's a
pizza
great
movie.
pizza.
If they're in a courtroom, it's a pizza movie. But E.T. is the first pizza
God.
movie because they eat pizza in it. And it's
Good
a movie
product placement for pizza.
It's a movie that was
Is there a movie where anyone eats pizza before E.T.?
Well, yes, but not a movie that is so perfectly paired with the rise of VHS.
Sure.
And the idea that this movie was probably watched in the presence of pizza more often than it was not. And Michael Mann does not make pizza movies. He doesn't make a kind of, Saturday night, let's grab a fun legal thriller.
No, they're challenging films.
They're long. You have to pay attention to everything that's happening. You can't look away.
Yeah, they're really serious movies, but they're super lowbrow movies, which is a very classic kind of 40s, 50s style of filmmaking that no one cares about at all anymore.
So, Alex, you said at the beginning of this episode that you want to get a project on the Blank Check picture slate.
Yes.
Now, obviously, our door is always open for you. If you want to pitch us anything, come to us first.
Ben looks engaged now for the first time in an
hour. If you want
a
first look deal, we'll sign you.
Cracking an egg into a bowl?
We're willing to make an overall deal.
Sure,
you can prop your shingle up here.
Right.
We'll get you a bungalow.
So we're going to have shingles within shingles?
Shingles within shingles.
The keep is kind of shingles within shingles.
Yes. Hey now.
Thank you.
So I'm looking at, this is, a little bit out of date, but of course the famous Blank Check Pictures keynote address, Kevin Feige style, that was very real and not photoshopped by Pat Reynolds. And here are some of the projects I forgot we have on the docket. The Buzzed, of course.
Yeah, I feel like that comes up a lot.
Still no director attached. Gadget, the Gadget reboot that
That's
David
my
pitched,
pitch, right?
in which I play
Griffin
Inspector
should play
Gadget.
Inspector Gadget.
I feel like I could do that.
And I feel like there's a window on Griffin being able to play Inspector Gadget. Like, it's not forever that he can do this.
forever.
He needs to be a sprightly guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
How old was French Stewart?
French Stewart was a pretty good gadget. I mean, I've talked about that, but Inspector Gadget 2 is far more accurate to the cartoon, and that's better.
I'm going to tell you exactly. I need to know now. Inspector Gadget.
Here's another one.
2003, he was 39.
Oh, so Griffin's got a long time.
Yeah, Griffin, you still got a few years.
Well, but I'm 30 going on 45. I'm going to skip all those middle years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like the Keep. I'm like slowly materializing into an old man. Here's another one on the slate. Henry Darger's Realms of the Unreal. Now, the problem is
memory of what
Ben has this has been his big passion project. He's been producing it. Everyone thinks eventually Ben's going to take over and direct it. That he's going to make it his directorial.
I feel like that's the Buzz.
Right.
Right.
Buzz, I think he would rather get a real sort of craftsman because that's a commercial
Ben
play.
is sort of the Eric Roth of the Blank Check Pictures.
Right. But Realms of the Unreal, he might not be able to let go. Of course, you got Easy Rider, the Esther Zuckerman story.
Of course,
we have Sarah Steele attached.
Yeah, Esther recently saw Sarah walking out of the Metrograph, and I was like, you gotta sign her up.
She's attached as far as I'm concerned. And then the other project listed here, Midnight Run Forbidden Origin, which of course has now been retitled Midnight Run 2049.
Okay. I didn't realize we were.
We've been courting Paul Thomas Anderson for that one. But,
how's that going?
Court is in session.
He's a Patreon subscriber.
He's
right?
a Patreon subscriber. He's a check.
That'd be funny.
Yeah, he's a Haas hog.
But he's only a Haas.
He's only a Haas.
He's like,
hog.
I'm only in it for Haas.
I'm in it for Haas. But do any of those jump out to you? Or do you have any other projects you want to pitch to us?
Gadget. For now.
Okay.
I'll think of something.
Yeah.
Gadget's in your wheelhouse because I feel like you like that.
IP?
Exactly. The sort of distressed IP.
Yeah.
It's distressed.
It's distressed, all right.
Yeah.
I got a pitch.
Great.
New one. Because I'm currently working on my screenplay for Night Eggs.
Yes, which is very exciting.
Which Chris Weitz is
attached to direct.
No, he's attached to produce. He hasn't confirmed.
He's been eyeing the director's chair.
He's definitely still listening at hour 3 of the Keep podcast.
No question.
As far as I know from Weitz, he's all in. He's
weirdly all in.
Yeah.
But I had this new concept. What if you make a podcast movie? No one's done it.
Podcast.
Well, there's podcasters in the new Halloween.
Yes, which is the best thing about it is that the podcasters are savagely murdered very early into Halloween.
Do sort of like
Pontypool, but with podcasts called
like
Potty.
Make it
Potty Pool.
Potty Pool.
What?
Make like occupation movie, right? Like those. That's like such a straightforward kind of.
Why
like
do I do like Working Girl at a podcast network?
Like the
Ben is tilting his head like that's an interesting
Wasn't
idea.
Love the TV show? Didn't that have some podcast content in it?
Never
She's
watched.
definitely like a radio show.
One of my favorite ways that you guys describe movies when they come up in Box Office Game is like it's a movie where this guy has this job,
right? So that's the pitch.
So this would just be like you know that like
which is a real pizza movie sort of overlaps.
Oh, totally.
Right.
But it would just be
what
like
if Michael Keaton was a house painter?
Yeah, like what if this guy just works in
Such a
like what
good
if he's just the podcaster?
Podcaster.
We should put that on the slate.
You mean like an Airheads of podcasting, where like a studio gets taken hostage, but it's not live, so no one can really get the word out?
Or what if it's like it's the like it's a mad world of podcasting, where instead of it being like all the great comedy stars of our time, it's like a mad dash
Sarah
movie.
Koenig.
Yeah, you guys,
us.
That's it.
Rogan.
Rogan. Fucking who's on the charts right now? Marin, obviously.
Yeah, Richard Simmons.
He has to lock the gates.
We're all trying to find Richard Simmons.
Right,
We're not trying to find money buried under the tree.
Adnan, he's there.
Jay, Nisha.
So
it's mostly just cereal.
Hey, listen, I have sat at 3:00 in the morning on a Wednesday many nights listening to Snooki.
Oh, Snooki's part of the movie.
Talking about some inane shit.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is absurd. What is my life? And I got to wake up and then talk about The Keep with these two idiots.
Barbaro. I don't know.
I think there's
Thank you for
something there.
not including me in one of the idiot counts.
Right.
We're not talking about The Keep.
Yeah.
Look, The Keep is fun to talk about.
When you put it that way, it sounds like you have a pretty charmed life, Ben.
It's a semi-charmed life.
Yeah, I know. I picked up on that.
Oh, okay.
Ben
He just didn't want to react.
something else
Yeah.
to do with his
Is there a box office for The Keep, or is this
Yes, there is, my friend.
Every day.
Thank you
Because this
for
is definitely one of those
asking.
times
Life,
where the
baby.
discussion of the movie's chronology ended, but there's always other things to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, we actually should play the box
I knew it would
office
excite
game.
you guys too much to mention the phrase Michael Mann's Mission Impossible 3. Think of other things like this. Think of other like fake things that, if they were real, would be sublime.
Right. It's going to be tough to top. What's going on, Ben?
Remake
Ben
House of Leaves, but make it that a podcast that a blind man recorded is discovered.
Ben's sticking his tongue out like he just
Yeah, right.
shattered the glass backboard.
Right.
Tongue is still out.
He's doing like a Nicky on.
Yeah. How do you like me now?
Right. Raising his arms and happy.
Ben is now doing full De Niro face.
I think you guys have learned
He's
that
taking a bow.
when you crack like a certain runtime, the way to stop Ben from wanting to end things is just ask him what he's thinking
What do
about.
you
Exactly.
want?
Like let him off
That's
the
true.
leash.
Ben,
Right.
what do you want out of this podcast?
I mean, it's been half an hour since the.
I know.
I know. I gave up.
Okay, so let's talk box office.
Okay. The Keep came out. Terrible time to come out, by the way. December 16th.
What was the final domestic total?
4.12. 4.2.
It is crazy that 30 years apart, unadjusted, it still only made a little less than Black Hat.
Right, because adjusted for inflation,
It handily
The
outgrossed Black
Keep
Hat.
made $12 million.
Yeah.
Great job, The Keep.
Yeah.
It came out.
Black Hat made 8.
It made 8. It got to 8.
That's insane.
Which, of course-
it crawled to 8.
You know, much of Black Hat, one thing, Black Hat has Chinese characters in it and is obviously trying to make an international play that it failed to make.
Yeah.
8, a very important number in Chinese numerology.
Again,
So maybe
not
they
to-
just stopped it there.
Not to keep going on tangents, but are there any other major filmmaker releases that do not even hit double digits?
That is something I will research because I feel like that's a great question. Did Silence hit double digits?
Yes, but not 20.
Right.
Isn't
Silence
Silence
made
like 17?
Silence made 7 domestic.
Wow.
So Silence is it because
7.
Silence is the one that sprung to mind where I was like,
Wow.
because when you were talking to me about how Scorsese, I'm like, you don't realize how much Silence frightened Paramount.
Silence,
Like,
right. That might have
right.
been, I forgot about Silence,
It
but that
wasn't
might
like-
have been him
I don't
running
think
his
it cost
checkbook.
as
That was
much
the
as
last
Black
check
Hat.
he had.
Right.
It was like
But-
40, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Right.
But it was the movie he tried to make for 30 years. He finally got them to write the check after Wolf of Wall Street.
7.
And then they were
People
like,
were like,
see,
no
the
me
Monk
gusta.
movie that's really long and sadly made no money.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, yeah, geez, I guess it did. Huh. Well, all right. Anyway, I'm going to
like
hire
bullets?
Pacino.
That pain tolerance movie.
Imagine a bullet is the I in various names as it comes
Sometimes
towards
it's an
you.
O.
All right. December 16th, 1983.
Okay.
Number one at the box office, $10 million in its second week, is the 4th in a franchise. Very unusual in the 80s, I feel like.
Give me the year again.
1983.
Is it Star Trek 4?
No.
Is it a horror franchise?
No.
Is it Superman 4?
No. I'm having fun
Is
with
it a police academy?
No, but the first word is good.
Police?
First word is good.
It's a police movie.
It's a police movie, and there are 4 of them.
There's 4 of them. Like, I don't know.
And
how-
this is number 4?
This is the 4th.
Wait, is police in the title, or is it a cop movie?
It's a cop movie.
It's a Dirty Harry?
It's a Dirty Harry. But
that
which
be-
is it?
The Enforcer?
No.
Deadpool?
No.
That's
Aren't
the
these all
5th.
Dirty Harry movies?
The
Right.
Enforcer is 3rd, Deadpool is 5th.
What's the one in
Let's name
between
all
that we're
5 at
missing?
this point.
What's the one that we're missing?
It's the one directed by Clint Eastwood. As far as I know, the only one that he directed.
Ben
That's not helpful what Ben's
is
doing.
punching himself in the face and then acting surprised.
This is the one where he says, go ahead, make my day. Which everyone assumes is in the
Sudden
first one.
Impact?
Correct.
Helpful.
No, it wasn't. I didn't get it because of that. I just went through
The movie Ben
database of my
was
brain.
like trying to tease his like
He was punching
face
himself in the
punch.
face and looking surprised that it had
Surprising
happened.
So
punch.
did Impact.
You'll
You
do
didn't see it
Dirty
coming.
Harry on Patreon, right?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
One of them is so like nakedly sexist that it would probably be like very fun to
And the
talk
last
over.
one is the one with Jim Carrey as a rock star, right?
Yeah, and Deadpool's in it.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Right.
He knows he's in it.
He knows he's in it.
Right. So Sudden Impact. Come on, that's a good first movie in the box office game.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
Wait, what number is the
We're
Keep?
excited. Yeah.
The Keep is number 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Strong
it
opening.
didn't open
Strong
strong.
opening.
Sudden Impact, which grossed 67,
Wow.
which adjusted is 187. Huge movie.
Big franchise.
Big franchise. Number 2 is a movie we've discussed on this podcast.
On this podcast,
Yep.
it has been covered.
Mm-hmm.
And the year
It's 1983.
is 83.
And its final total is 108.
Its final total is one.
It's only 4 weeks into release and it's made 21.
It's only 4 weeks into release, and it's 21. So it's not a Cameron.
No.
It is not a Shyamalan.
No.
It's not
Shyamalan? No.
Brooks?
He was like a child. It is a Brooks.
It is a Brooks? In terms of endearment?
Terms of endearment.
Oh, wow.
Well, yours broadcast news 85?
87.
87.
Yep. Terms of endearment.
Terms of endearment.
So you've
Right.
done the
massive
Keep.
hit.
You've been Keep adjacent
Yeah.
before.
We have.
What a
That's
time to be
true.
alive. So
Yeah.
happy to have been born at this time.
In terms of endearment, the second highest grossing film of its year behind Return of the Jedi.
I believe that's correct. Yes. I can
Just ahead of the Keep.
Just
a
Just
smidge
squeaking
ahead of the
ahead.
Keep. That's right. The only other movie in 83 to cross 100.
wow.
Number 3 is a movie I've never heard of. Oh, I have heard of this. Okay. So this is one of those things where it's like, that movie with those famous people in it? They're in another movie together that doesn't have anything to do with the first movie, but they're in a movie together.
Interesting. It's they're together again. It's one of
it's
those.
kind of a runaway bride situation, but less famous.
Is it Chevy Chase and Goldie Hawn?
No. Interesting. but
Was it
no.
the follow up to Foul Play? Okay, let me think. How iconic are these two people?
And how much
together?
earlier was the first movie?
7 years earlier? 76, I think, the first movie.
Is it a man and a woman?
A man and a
Is
woman.
it the main event?
It's not the main event. What is that?
It's a boxing comedy with Ryan O'Neal and Barbra
Barbra
Streisand.
Streisand.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
God, no.
After What's Up, Doc?
yeah.
It's the what can I clue you in about this? It's
How iconic is the first time they were together?
insanely.
Insanely iconic.
This movie I've never heard of, but
but the first one is like huge.
yeah,
75.
76, I think.
76. And they really popped.
Yeah. No,
together.
I'm sorry. The first one is 78. I had that wrong. I'm
Really
sorry.
popped. So it's 5
Huge
years later.
apology
They
from me.
really popped.
I'll tell you that Charles Durning, Scatman Crothers, Beatrice Straight, and Castulo Guerrera are prominent supporting players.
And that's like one of the hottest supporting casts you could have gotten in 1983. Those names just spell box office.
Yeah. This movie has a religious component, and those 4 play angels. I'm going to keep telling you things because I'm sure you don't know what this movie is, and as I explain it, it just sounds crazier.
You know, Charles Durning is like one of my 5 favorite actors.
Eventually,
Love
just
Durning.
say
Love
the
Durning.
first movie.
Journey Down the House.
Yeah. Okay, Dirty Down the
I'll say the first movie eventually, right? And even then, you probably won't know it.
This is very exciting.
Yeah.
It's about.
I love this
I'm
era
just
of box
trying to
office,
guess
by
the
the way.
first
This is
movie
my
now.
favorite.
This is
That's
why
what
I'm
trying-
always. This is why I think like this is the primo box office because there's just so many mysteries in here,
Yeah.
and you have no firsthand memory of
Right,
any of
right.
it.
So the premise of this movie is that 4 angels have been in charge of heaven for 25 years.
My God, and they're Durning,
Durning,
Straight,
Crothers, and some guy, Castulo Guerrera. He's the one I don't know, but they've been in charge of heaven for 25 years. They're playing golf, and then God, voiced by Gene Hackman,
What?
Sounds like David's having a stroke.
Yeah.
interrupts, being like,
thought I was
"What's
getting
up?
marble mouth
I
this
have been out of the office for 25 years. Earth seems bad. I will flood it again." So Hackman comes in as God and is like, "You guys have not been doing a good job of Earth."
Do you know this or are you reading this?
I'm reading this.
Okay.
I've never heard of this movie.
Okay.
I read this because I was first just going off the stars, but then I read the plot and I was like, "Whoa,
So
hang on
we
a second."
haven't even gotten to the 2 big
No,
stars.
Exactly.
Yet. Okay.
Exactly. God's like, "I'm flooding Earth. You guys have fucked it up."
Did this
And-
open this week? Or is this like hanging
Let's find
around?
out. Yes, it opened this week. It's the big opening this week.
Okay, 70.
And the angels are like, "Wait a second, don't flood Earth. What if we find a guy who's no good and we can persuade him to like reform and be a good guy? will that like prove to you that like mankind is worth not being destroyed?
How is this movie not remade in the late 90s?
Right.
And so they select a guy, the lead actor, who's going to rob a bank, and he points his gun at the bank teller, who's the lady, and then like the moral like sort of play begins.
What the fuck? 78. What wins Best Picture in 78?
What wins Best Picture in 78? Let's find out.
Because I'm not going to guess this movie.
Now
but
that
I can
Ben's
guess
not talking about his ideas anymore. He looks like he wants to
now
do
he
it
hates
again.
the show
going to
again.
give you. This is one of the great box office games of all time.
This is
in my opinion.
unbelievable.
I'm next going to give you the movie. The winner in 1978 is The Deer Hunter.
Okay.
This
movie stars De Niro and Meryl Streep as well.
The movie this is drafting off of, and it was nominated for 5
This
Razzies.
movie stars Christopher Walken and a gun.
5
It's the long overdue reteaming of the iconic duo Christopher Walken and a pistol.
It's weird. Ben looks
I
like
just
he's
found
reaching-
out more information about this movie. Okay, 5 Razzie nominations.
This one that you're talking about
This
now,
one
not
that
the
I'm
original
talking
one.
about right now. Yes.
Okay.
It had a platinum-selling soundtrack with 3 hit singles for the female lead, one of which was a song written by Journey that they passed off to her because they were like, forget it.
Is the movie a musical, or did she just sing on the soundtrack?
That.
Okay, so
Is she known as a singer?
Yes.
And
is it Streisand?
No.
Is it Cher?
No. It's someone you'd never remember, and then you'd be like, oh, right, that person was a huge deal.
That person was a huge...
Is
It's
it
not
Olivia
Dolly
Newton-John?
Parton?
Olivia Newton-John.
And John Travolta?
And John Travolta.
And the movie is...
And the movie is called, it's directed by John Hertzfeld, who went on to make like 2 Days in the Valley in 15 minutes.
Moment by Moment is the Lily Tomlin John
Not
Travolta
that.
one, right?
Yep.
And then Perfect is John Travolta.
Here, I'll give you
Jamie
another
Lee
clue
Curtis.
for the title. The title is also used for a sitcom that I used to watch that ran for 1 season.
The Single Guy.
No.
Secret Diary of Desmond Fife.
Andy Richter Controls the Universe.
Homeboys in Outer Space.
Shasta McNasty.
I mean, come on.
I like that I'm
You're
joining
teeing
in.
us up.
We have so many more UPN shows at the ready.
David's taking guesses.
No, like it's a very anonymous title. It also
Platypus
has,
Man.
It has nothing to do with the
Richard
premise.
Jennings, Platypus Man.
It
What?
took a twist of fate to make them blank the title.
Fall in Love?
I mean, that would be a weird title for a movie. But
Yeah, but that's kind of the sentiment.
Can I give you the title?
Please.
Can we give up?
Yeah, we don't know this movie.
Two of a Kind.
I did know that title.
I love it when you two turns out you do know it. There they are. They're two of
That's
a kind.
why I was going like moment by moment. I
You
was like,
see
what's
this
the-
poster, you don't think like, oh yeah, that's about like 4 angels arguing with Gene Hackman as God
John
over the
Travolta's
fate
a
of
fucking
humanity.
bank robber?
Wow.
The
Okay.
fuck is it?
What a great, that was one of the
Wow.
greast things that's ever happened on this podcast. All right.
Okay, don't worry, Ben. We only have 2 more movies to guess.
Number 4 is a De Palma movie.
80. Wait,
Three.
I'm blanking on what year we're in all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
83. I've got 3 hours of sleep. My brain is
Well,
shutting down.
this is embarrassing. Scarface is 80.
It's not.
Body
it's-
Double's 86.
No, it's Scarface.
Scarface is
Oh, okay,
83.
well.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. You got
What's
it.
80?
I don't know.
A
I can
blowout.
check.
Never mind.
Yeah,
Answer
blowout
blowout.
is
Okay.
either 79 or 80. Yeah.
Holy mackerel.
Holy mackerel. Blowout's 81. Dress to Kill is 80. Number 5
Mhm.
is a film that I have heard of, but I need to look up what it is. All right. It stars... Oh, fuck. I think we've talked about this movie before. Jesus. When would we have talked about it? It stars Gene Hackman.
Okay.
As the voice of God.
It's an action movie.
It's called 3 of a Kind.
It's... it's like a Marine trying to rescue his son from like the Vietnam War. It's like an action movie from the 80s that I don't really know, but I know like anyone
like a
who was
Gene
alive
Hackman
in 1983 probably
programmer.
saw this movie. Yes.
Is it called Sudden Impact?
No.
Does it have a title like Without Limits?
It kind of, yeah. It has a title that like means a thing.
No exceptions.
No reservation.
Extreme Measures.
Diplomatic immunity.
What else can I tell you about this
Out of
movie? It was
options.
Patrick Swayze's in it.
Swayze?
Tex Cobb is in it.
Tex, huh?
Fred Ward.
Ward?
God, I'm sweating.
Oh my God.
Jane Kaczmarek,
Okay.
however you say her name.
Yeah. Hackman.
I don't know.
It's got like a real like military
Yes.
term term or word in the title.
Dishonorably discharged?
You're not that far away.
I'm close?
Yeah.
With honors?
Again.
What's another word for honor?
Right.
On the battlefield.
Or
Distinction?
bravery. What's another word for bravery?
Courage?
Keep going. It's more
This
or
man-
more a little more ornate than that.
Had
Valor?
blank.
Valor.
Is it just
It's the
called Valor?
Second word of the title.
Stolen Valor?
No.
They don't know.
Uncommon Valor.
Oh, I do know
Common
that.
Valor.
Yes.
I've
We
heard
have
that
talked
before.
about this movie
Yeah,
on an episode.
I don't remember why it
Blankies,
came
tell me which, because I don't remember
Yeah,
which.
I don't know. Do
So-
your work.
So this was, what else is in the box office? What's 6 through 10?
We got a re-release of The Rescuers,
Mm.
the Mouse movie.
Priming the pump for Down Under.
That's right. We've got Yentl.
Papa, can you
Who
hear
doesn't
me?
love Yentl?
What a time to be alive.
Papa, can
We've
you
got
hear me?
John Carpenter's
Ben
Christine.
has taken off his headphones. He is walking out of the studio to pee. Okay, we have...
Christine, which we're probably going to have to discuss on this podcast. I'm just assuming Carpenter's winning.
looks like the Haas Hogs have assembled.
Silkwood came out this week.
What a time to be alive.
Wow.
Gorky Park came out this week. The remake of To Be or Not to Be came out this week.
Oh,
The
man.
Man Who Loved Women came out this week.
So Durning's blown up the box office right now. He's got
Remember
two
when-
films in the top 10.
Remember when they just didn't care when movies got released?
You're right.
Yeah.
I don't know. They'll make money at some
When
point.
the notion of releasing all these movies 2 weeks before Christmas made perfect sense.
It's
Right,
the
there
thing,
were
right
only,
now,
like-
if you
right.
looked at a Christmas box office, it would all be family movies,
Right.
superhero movies, and Oscar movies.
Right.
And this
Wait
is just
minute.
a bunch of
Is
shit.
Silkwood also Paramount?
Silkwood is Fox.
Fox. Is Paramount wasn't like, we've got this great catastrophe movie
Yeah.
and this great Nazi
Jewish
movie.
horror film.
Yeah, the Uncommon Valor is a Paramount. I'll tell you that
Wow.
much. As is Terms of Endearment.
Yeah, they
Paramount's
used to-
feeling fine. They got
used
terms.
to make so many movies, and they would just release them because
They would
opening
just release
weekends
them when
didn't
they were
matter.
finished.
Right. They were
Right.
done.
It's, like, it's done. Okay,
Right.
put it up.
Right.
Call my guy at the theater.
Time to make the donuts. You
Right,
roll
yeah.
them out, and you
Yeah.
sell them until you're done, and you close up shop. Yeah.
Yeah, you could release like 8 Valor movies in a weekend, probably.
But this is just like, it's just, I mean, the box office speaks to like just how bananas and diverse this whole time period was allowed to be.
Mainstream filmmaking used to be.
And this is why I don't understand. People say the 80s are not a great decade. It's just like
80s are
there's
a great
such a
decade.
diversity of options.
The next week, there's no new movies the next week. That's the other thing. The next week, there's no new movies.
no new movies.
Don't release one. Who needs one?
It's only December 20th. Don't release any
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah.
Christmas time, no one goes to the movies.
That is actually wild. A new movie is not released until January 1984 when Hot Dog the movie comes out.
That's insane. And January 25th is like the most coveted of release dates now.
100%. Right. I'm trying
January 25th?
Sorry, December 25th. January 25th, the second most coveted
That's
release
that
date.
Black Hat slot.
Yeah, that's that classic Season of the Witch slot.
I'm trying to find like the movie that we saw to discuss Uncommon Valor, but I can't.
Because it had already, it must have been Terms of Endearment, right?
Yeah.
Is that
maybe.
possible?
Yeah, maybe it is Terms of Endearment.
Must have been that.
I'm tying myself in
Don't
knots
bother
here.
yourself, David. It must have been that.
I feel like we could be ending right now,
Sweating.
except Ben's not here.
I know, that's the problem. We literally don't know how to end the show. We lack the... So, okay, Ben's
Oh,
re-entered.
thank God he's back.
Ben, I was
Okay.
just saying we could have ended, but you had left.
But unfortunately, when you were gone, we started a new conversational loop. Oh, how?
But Ben, I have a request because obviously we've pushed this pretty far because we're having fun. Can you make this episode 1 minute longer than the Taking Woodstock episode?
How long is that?
Let's find out. I think we actually are right around there right now.
That is
because I don't know how long these ads will be, but like,
Oh, yeah. No, actually, you know what? The ads are going to beef it
You'll
over.
be fine.
So you know what? Let's end it now.
Yeah, because here, Taking Woodstock running time. Let's find out. I'm loading the episode right now. 2:34. We are at 2:37.
oh wow, okay.
So we did it.
We're
Okay.
at 2:37 now?
Correct.
So I feel like people don't know this, but there was at one point in this episode a 10-minute conversation about bones, which Ben cut out.
Alex, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me
You did
back.
it.
So
I
tired.
honestly didn't know what you were going to do
Yeah.
with the keep, but you did it.
It's worth talking about.
No, of course
It
it
is,
is.
yeah, of
I
course.
just
If this movie were made by a lesser filmmaker, it would be one of the most irrelevant movies of all time. And because it's made by
That's
a major
right.
filmmaker,
That's
it's
correct.
very compelling.
that is actually
And it's
true.
in
though.
between.
If someone else had made this movie, you would have been like, that movie is just
It's on TV.
nothing.
Is this like
if
a
it was the
Corman
exact
film
same
where they
movie.
ran out of budget?
Right,
Like, what
and it was
happens here?
directed by like John Smithson.
But
Thief and
weirdly
Manhunter are
overqualified
both
cast.
top
Yeah.
tier.
Sure,
Yeah.
that's true.
It's just sandwiched in between. Like
Yeah.
he knocks it out of the gate and then comes back swinging after this.
Knocked out of the keep.
Yeah, he was just trying to sell those board games. Her Smell. See it in theaters if you can.
It feels like something I did in a nightmare.
I have to wait 3 days to find out if I win the role-playing game book. But Her Smell is probably still out somewhere.
The Snowman?
Well, you asked that question about like major directors.
Who got to 8?
Because I just remember that movie being bad.
Yeah.
So this is more stuff I could cut out.
Sure.
Or leave in.
Cut it all out. And then put it behind
Snowman
the paywall.
got to 6.
Wow.
Snowman's a 6.
And not a particularly major director.
No, that's
middle.
Yeah,
someone who people thought was.
Could be.
Right. Check out Her Smell in theaters if it's still there. If not, on digital.
Somewhere. It's out there somewhere.
I bought it on iTunes for no money.
Have you gotten any Christopher Robin residuals?
No, I think those come a year and a quarter after the release of the movie.
Interesting. Because I'll say, I feel like it's been blowing up airplanes recently.
More people have told me they've seen it on planes than seen it in theaters.
I'm pretty sure that my girlfriend rewatched it on a plane.
I rewatched it on a plane.
I've sat next to multiple people, strangers on planes, watching it.
Sure.
I feel like it comes up often on the show.
Love Christopher Robin.
I mean, that's where the draft day millions came from airplane viewing, because the movie lost money, and then I started getting crazy residual checks.
It's all planes.
Right.
And it said like JetBlue or whatever.
Yeah, Delta.
I'll let you know about that.
C-24B.
It might be different. Might be different for actors.
I don't know. We'll find out. Look, it's a hanging narrative thread to be resolved. Thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe. Go to blankcheck.reddit.com for some real nerdy shit.
Oh, I just had another thought.
What?
Let me just think of something else to just tack on.
Okay, you know what?
Keep going.
Do you know what? Now you're being nasty, and I'm gonna say it. Now you're being being nasty, and that's uncalled for. And I'm gonna be nice, and I'm gonna say thanks to Andrew Gudo for our social media. I'm gonna say thanks to Pat Reynolds and Joe Bone for our artwork. Thanks to Lane Montgomery for our theme song. Go to Patreon.
There's a new vaporwave artist I just discovered. Do you mind if I just
go to Patreon for the stuff we cut out of this episode?
Sure, right. Yeah, exactly.
If you want to piece together the Keep style fractured narrative of this episode, which Ben has cut down to 15 minutes.
We should actually do that. We should do that.
I think that's a good bit.
Yeah,
what if this is our shortest episode ever?
Right, yeah.
I love that.
It's shorter than the Attack of the Clones politics episode.
But now that
if you were going to do that now, 35.
Ben, it would take more work from you to make it
exactly.
true.
And we're not backing down on this, and that's what Ben has to do.
Oh boy.
And look for that Connery the movies.
Yeah,
merch.
the movie shirt available now on TeePublic.
I certainly hope. I'll be the one drinking out of that mug or using that tote bag.
Did I show you my new phone case?
Oh, it's a no bits case.
Good one.
It's a nice purple no bits case. Mm-hmm. Well, soon I'll be getting myself a Movies phone case, and we'll all be living in a better world. Thank you all for listening. And as always, Ben, please edit this down to be our shortest episode ever.
All right.